17, and before that was at Platteville. He also goes clear back to me when I started as governor. He worked at the Department of Administration. So it was like old home week to come back and get a chance to work with Rob again. He has been a steady hand at the helm during times of significant challenges, including the reorganization of the UW system a couple years ago and our more recent efforts to control the COVID-19 pandemic. Rob recently announced that he will be leaving this post, and indeed his last day in Van Nuys was last Friday, and it was really a sad day. And I threatened to break his leg so he couldn't leave, but short of that, I reached an agreement with the great Chancellor from Madison, Becky Blank, to allow me to have his ability, his intellect, and his work products, and all of our administrative things that we're still working on. ATP and P2P and computers as a service. He's going to be very intricately involved working with me, and Becky is very happy with that as well. So he's leaving, being paid more over at Madison, but he's still going to be working for us, which I am very happy about and delighted about. Rob is going to join UW-Madison as interim associate vice chancellor of facilities, planning, and management. And I told him his first assignment is to get the air conditioning and the technology in Van Nuys working better. And we're the first one that's going to be remodeled with new bathrooms and stuff, and Rob has already agreed to that. And he's going to continue to work on behalf of higher ed in Wisconsin. He's a great guy, and it really has been my privilege to work with him. And I just want to say at the outset, Rob, you are what is called a dedicated public servant, always looking out for the best of who you're working for and for the overall institution. You have been it's been a pleasure working with you and for you. And I just want to say thank you so very much, Rob, for all that you've done. And I'm looking forward to continue to work with you, and good luck in your new career. With that, I turn it back to you, President Peterson, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
My pleasure. Thank you, President Thompson. I'd also like to extend my thanks to Vice President Kramer for his dedication and service. It's been a pleasure to work alongside you these last several years. I've truly valued your focus on accuracy and your calm, professional demeanor. You've managed a large portfolio of responsibility, and you've done so in an exceptional way. We look forward to continuing to work with you in your new role. Congratulations, Rob. Would you like to address the board and say a few words?
Thank you, Regent President Peterson. Thank you, President Thompson, for those very kind and humbling remarks. It has been a real honor and privilege to work and serve the people of the state of Wisconsin as Vice President of Administration these past 4 years. And I look forward to continuing to serve in this new role. Again, thank you very much for those kind words, and stay well.
Thank you, Rob. Let's offer our own congratulations. The records of the October 8th, 2020 Board of Regents meeting and the October 20th special Board of Regents meeting have been provided. May I have a motion to approve these records?
So moved.
I have a motion. Regent Woodmanseen, may I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Regent Walsh. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Well, first I'd like to congratulate the winners of Tuesday's elections. Those are returning to office and those who are newly elected. We look forward to reaching out to elected officials from both sides of the political aisle and keeping open lines of communications with these new and experienced lawmakers alike. These are complex times, and our relationships with lawmakers at the federal and state level have never been more important. Again, congratulations on your election victories. Now I have brief updates to provide on 2 chancellor searches. I'm pleased to report that Dr. Thomas Gibson, who has served as Vice President for Student Affairs and Vice Provost at Bowling Green State University in Bowling Green, Ohio, has been named the 15th Chancellor at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. His appointment was unanimously approved by this board 2 weeks ago. Dr. Gibson will assume his leadership post on January 11th, 2021, but I believe he is with us here today, so it's my pleasure to introduce him to this board. Dr. Gibson joined Bowling Green State in 2016, where he served as an advocate for the academic and social development of students, devised policies for student success, and advised the president and provost on student issues, among other things. Previously, he was an associate vice president of student affairs at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana, associate dean for student development at York College, City University of New York in New York City, and employed in other roles at York College. Dr. Gibson has held numerous other positions related to student success in higher education. Dr. Gibson earned his doctorate degree in education from the Johnson & Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island, with a focus on educational leadership in higher education, a master's degree in education from the University of New Haven in Connecticut, and a bachelor's of science degree in mass communication from Eastern Connecticut State University. We're delighted to welcome him to the UW system family. Look forward to getting to know him better. Dr. Gibson, I believe you're with us this morning. I'd like to turn the floor over to you. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you, Regent President Peterson. First, I would like to thank the Search and Screen Committee Chair, Regent Walsh, and committee members, Regents Delgado, Hall, Chris Peterson, and Woodmansey for their leadership and support throughout the entire search process. I would also like to thank the Board of Regents, as well as President Thompson, for their vote of confidence, and certainly each member of the Board of Regents. As you can probably imagine, I am beyond thrilled, honored, and grateful for the opportunity to serve UW-Stevens Point as Chancellor. This is a personal and a career highlight for me. You know, I pursued a career in higher education with one singular focus, and that is to help more students succeed. So I'm thrilled to have an opportunity to continue this mission on a new journey in leading the University of Wisconsin at Stevens Point. So thank you for all that you do in support of the University of Wisconsin.
Thank you, Dr. Gibson. I would say welcome aboard and congratulations. I too would like to extend my gratitude to the Search and Screen Committee chaired by Regent Karen Walsh, as well as other members of the Special Regent Committee, which included Regents Walsh, Jose Delgado, Chris Peterson, and Olivia Woodmansey. Your commitment to this very important process is recognized and appreciated. Turning to UW River Falls, just a reminder at the request of campus shared governance groups, the search for a new chancellor has been postponed for a short period of time. But later this month, we expect to name the members of the Search and Screen Committee to launch this important search process, so stay tuned, we will keep you posted. Turning now to a new scholarship opportunity. In August, President Thompson and I identified several key priorities that he intends to address during his time as president. One of those priorities is to enhance opportunities for underrepresented and underserved students in the UW system. Today, I'm pleased to give you an update on our new Wisconsin Regents Opportunity Scholarship Program. This scholarship is intended to recognize students of color and students from lower income families who have overcome adversity, who have demonstrated financial need, and who possess records of merit that include strong academic performance, significant personal achievements, and service to their communities. The overall objective is to provide financial support for deserving students at key points in their educational journeys. This includes recruiting students to come to UW, retaining students in the UW, and also supporting them through the completion of their UW degrees. In other words, students of color and lower income students will have access to additional scholarship funds all along the higher ed pipeline. We know this is vitally important if we're to succeed in having more of these students earn a college degree. So why is this so important? Well, consider this. Among high school graduates in Wisconsin, only 1 in 5 Hispanics and 1 in 10 African Americans and Native Americans enroll at a UW institution immediately after graduation. By contrast, about 1 in 3 white high school graduates in Wisconsin enroll. This trend has only gotten worse in recent years. Since 2000, college enrollment by high school graduates of color has steadily declined while the enrollment of white high school students has largely been unchanged. The economic divide in our student population is significant. Nationally, 1/3 of undergraduate students are Pell Grant eligible, the common proxy for low-income students. In Wisconsin, however, despite family incomes no higher than the national median, only 1/4 of those enrolled in college are Pell eligible. And here's an additional concerning fact. Since 2010, the percentage of new freshman class from families making less than $50,000 has fallen from 33% to 27%. Our challenge starts with getting students of color and lower income students into the UW, but I would emphasize it certainly doesn't end there. We know, for example, that students of color are less likely to persist into their second year than white students by a margin of 78% to 86%. It's a similar story for low-income students. But the bigger difference comes in graduation rates. The 6-year graduation rates for students of color and low-income students are dramatically lower than their white and low-income peers. Just under 1/2 of students of color graduate within 6 years. By contrast, 2/3 of white students graduate in the same time frame. The graduation rate gap is similar between low-income students and non-low-income students. So how will the Wisconsin Regents Opportunity Scholarship Program work? In August, President Thompson announced that the UW system is committing $1 million annually for these new scholarships to help our challenges with students of color and low-income students. These scholarships are covered through significant cost reduction moves in UW system administration to prioritize resources, and as Regents, we're proud to help champion this initiative. Awards will be divided among each of the UW system's 13 universities. We expect awards will range from $3,000 to a maximum of $10,000 per student. Each UW university will support and submit its own scholarship nominations for approval by the Regents Opportunity Scholarship Committee, which will be chaired by UW System's new Senior Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Officer. The committee will also include Regents Eve Hall, Edward Mandydeeds, and Corey Saffold, as well as UW System staff and university representatives. It's important to note that each UW university will determine its own nomination criteria and procedures. This allows each institution to be more strategic in where they invest the scholarship funding to meet their unique needs. Students will be nominated across 3 categories: recruitment, retention, and degree completion. We expect this new scholarship fund will provide new opportunities for several hundred students across the system. The real message of this scholarship is we believe in you and we want you to succeed. As a system, we're willing to invest in you and your future by providing assistance at the place along the higher education pipeline where it's most beneficial to a particular student. The first Regents Opportunity Scholars will be named next summer to start in the fall of 2021. The UW system and this Board of Regents are committed to expanding opportunity for these students, and this new scholarship fund should provide a significant boost. On a related note, I'd like to point out that addressing opportunity gaps is also the driving force behind the recently announced Moonshot for Equity initiative. We're very proud that the first consortium for this national initiative is here in Wisconsin, and it includes both UW-Milwaukee and UW-Parkside, as well as the Milwaukee Area Technical College and Carthage College. In this Moonshot initiative, which is supported by the EAB, institutions will work together to try and help more students of color and other underserved students enroll in and graduate from college. Overall, the need to address the current inequities is very clear, and it's not just a moral imperative, it also makes strong economic sense. For Wisconsin's economy to thrive, we need more college graduates, and the UW system is dedicated to making that happen. Finally, in recognitions of Veterans Day next week, we thank all those who have worn or will wear the uniform in service to our country. We have deep respect and gratitude for those who serve both on and off the battlefield, those who steadfastly stand on guard to ensure our freedom, our security, and our cherished way of life. Thank you. That concludes my report. I'll turn it over to President Thompson for his.
First off, just let me thank you, President Peterson, and I really think the Regents Opportunity Scholarship is going to help a great deal, and it certainly puts us on the path towards what we need and that's the recruitment of more minorities into our system, something you and I are dedicated to accomplish, and I appreciate your comments and your support, President Peterson, as well as the whole board, who I know is very much in favor of this scholarship. I'm going to start my presentation on thanking the board for their support of me and as long as I am here, and I appreciate very much people calling me and encouraging me and also giving me advice, and also some of the regents who stop in and see me. I appreciate that very much. Now, the big news is that the UW system is going to be participating, first one, in the federal government's upcoming Buy Next Now COVID-19 surge testing program, effective as soon as this week. We are going to be kicking it off, and actually we started today in a few sites across Eau Claire and Superior. The university system has been awarded 250,000 test kits. The tests, which use a nasal self-swab for about 10 seconds, will be available to all individuals that want to be tested. Students on UW system campuses, and complement the routine antigen testing that we do for residence hall now. When Dr. Redfield and Admiral Burks were here, along with Deputy Secretary Eric Harkin, they asked me if we could do more testing beyond just the residence hall. They felt very, very much the fact that they needed somebody to try a huge testing experiment. And that's why they awarded us, because they knew we would do a good job. And they also, of course, knew that we had a great staff that would also do it. So where this is going to be in addition, it's not going to supplant what we're already doing for residence hall. This is going to be in addition. And the nice thing I like about it, it's for the community, it's for non-resident students, it's for the high schools around, all the way down to age 5. And it's also for the vocational schools. Everybody wants to participate. Fantastic support so far from everybody that's been asked. There's one significant difference with the arrival of these tests on our UW campuses. As part of the program, and this is what this campuses really like, the fact that they can reach out and offer something to other schools and say, come on in and help. And the general public, you know, if you're in a community like Eau Claire, which is kicking off today, they're and the great chancellor from Eau Claire, Jim Schmidt, is very happy to be able to welcome in the people from the community of Eau Claire, but he's not alone. Every one of the chancellors were so excited about this opportunity. All of us, and especially, this is what universities are for, we want to be part of the solution. And that means, of course, going way above and beyond what we're already doing for our UW students. We also want to do as much as we can to help and support our local communities. It gives us tremendous opportunity to talk about the university being a solution to problems. And it's also going to help me take our message to the legislators when I say, we're not only took care of our own students, we took care of your constituents and your communities, because we want the new university, the new idea is to help everybody. And that's some message, that's the message I'm going to take to the legislature. I'm very, very proud, and I want to really state this, and I'll say it many times. I think we got the best complement of chancellors any place in the world. And when I threw this out, you know, you would expect chancellors who are unique would kick back and say, no, not me, not this time. I've already given at the church. And I don't particularly want to do this. But the truth of the matter is, every single one of them is happy to do it and wants to do more. And I'm very, very proud of all my chancellors. I'm very proud that they're taking this on. I'm very proud of the UW system being chosen, first one in the country by the federal government to facilitate this surge testing at this critical time. We have a terrible problem in this state. Today, we had over 5,900 new cases in the state of Wisconsin. And the death rate is going and it'll continue to rise. And if we can level that spiral and be able to level it off, we're going to be doing a great thing. And if we can do it on our 26 campuses, because this one is not only going to be on the 4-year campus, we're also going to be out in the 2-year campuses, not every day, but it'll be staggered. So we can reach out to communities all over the state and be able to, I think, do a good job. We're going to go to, some of us are going to go to the University of Wisconsin Oshkosh tomorrow. We're going to have a visitor from Washington. And I also am very happy that not only are we getting 208 individuals from the federal government to help us implement this, Dr. Redfield, when I talked to him, was kind enough to send up 3 outstanding individuals. One is a Rear Admiral who's a doctor who I didn't know, but she was working at one of the divisions of the Department of Health and Human Service when I was secretary my last year. And she's gone on to do great things all over the world. And we also have an epidemiologist and also a microbiologist. And they're embedded here in the building. And now it is my real honor to introduce herself and say a few words, is Rear Admiral Nancy Knight, who yesterday went to Whitewater campus and Milwaukee campus, and I haven't even had a chance to talk to her how it went, but I would like to introduce Admiral, could you come up and introduce yourself? This is Rear Admiral Nancy Knight, just an outstanding person. She came in and on Friday night, she was at work at crack of dawn on Saturday and hasn't stopped working since. And that's just the work ethic and the ability and just an outstanding human being. And thank you, Rear Admiral, for being here.
Thank you, President Thompson. Thank you, President Peterson, and all of the regents of the board here, and all of our chancellors across the UW campuses. I and my team, of course, are happy to be here to help you. We are not happy about the reason why we are here. We know that COVID is taking a tremendous toll around the world and here in Wisconsin. We currently have nearly 48 million cases around the world with approximately 1.2 million deaths. In the United States, we have just over 9.4 million cases with 230,000 plus deaths. And those numbers continue to rise every day. I know you've been watching the news and tracking those numbers just as I have. We have gone over 100,000 cases in a one-day period of time now for the first time in the United States. And as we watch those curves, those slopes, they are going up in many, many locations, and Wisconsin is one of those. This partnership that is happening that President Thompson spoke about is a critical part of helping to bend that curve here in Wisconsin. People need to have the ability to know their status. People need to have the ability to get tested. And as President Thompson spoke, those are members of your UW community, your employees, your faculty, your staff, your students, but also those communities in which they live and in which your campuses sit. So I have been personally really pleased to see the tremendous amount of collaboration around the surge testing effort in such a significant time of crisis for all of us and all of these communities. We've seen people working, it's not just me that's working night and day. President Thompson, I appreciate that, but I have been here in those early hours and those late nights with the staff here from the UW system, with the staff that are on our video conferences from across the campuses, from Wisconsin's DHS. Everyone has really been coming together to make this happen. And it's a huge lift, being able to put together all of the logistics. Our HHS colleagues that have given the 250,000 kits are really putting forward a tremendous effort as well to make all of those logistics happen from their side. While here from the campus side, they are putting all of the logistics together on the ground with their counterparts in the community. It also requires a significant amount of integration with public health practices, because when you're bringing a lot of people together to get tested, you also have to make sure that that environment doesn't cause them additional risk. So the incorporation of effective infection prevention and control practices is always also a very critical component of this surge testing campaign. And as President Thompson mentioned, I and my team were able to be on a couple of the campuses yesterday. We were very impressed with the level of planning that's taken place and how prepared they are, both on the logistics side as well as that incorporation of infection prevention and control practices to make the environment as safe as possible for everyone that wants to come in and get tested. The last thing that I would say is that while we are dealing with COVID now, and we are all very rightly focused on COVID now, we also need to recognize that other outbreaks are still occurring every single day here in the United States and around the world. And when the COVID pandemic is under control sometime in the future, we will continue to have other outbreaks occurring. I would encourage you all, when you have a chance, to take a look at the CSIS report from last November of 2019, prior to the COVID outbreak, that's entitled Ending the Cycle of Crisis and Complacency in U.S. Global Health Security, and was co-chaired by Dr. Julie Gerberding, former CDC director under Governor Thompson when he was secretary. This report talks about something that we see frequently in public health, which is this cycle of complacency when things are working well and crisis mode when things are not working well. So as a board and as all of your institutions, looking at your preparedness plans, those plans that are being applied for COVID right now, but also when COVID is over, making sure that those plans are always active, are always updated, because we never know when the next crisis might hit us. So thank you once again for all of your support. We have just been so warmly welcomed here. The collaborations have been phenomenal. We are here to help, as you heard, with getting this stood up, but also with some of the issues that may come up as it arises, and look forward to seeing this successful campaign kicked off. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral. The model is the CDC is that when a new disease breaks out any place in the world, doctors and scientists in those areas are very fearful of contacting or that disease or whatever it is. And so they always call the CDC. The CDC scientists and doctors always have their suitcases packed and will travel any place in the world. They run to where a new disease is, and they're the ones that discovered the coronavirus when I was secretary. SARS came out. They're the ones that discovered what a coronavirus, and SARS was the first coronavirus that came, not the first one, but it was one of the main ones that was discovered as being a coronavirus. This is also a coronavirus, and that was also done by our CDC scientists, great people. But as always, every time you try something new, and the federal government is watching us, and I think it's quite an honor that they chose us. Of course, nothing goes without a few hitches, and the personnel that was supposed to be here for La Crosse and Eau Claire and Superior didn't all show up. So we're substituting making. So we're going to have some bumps along the road, but the chancellors, the three chancellors in those campuses stood up and got their own individuals to fill in and are carrying on like nothing happened. That's the kind of university system we have, and I'm so proud of them. As far as our own positivity rates, we, as you can well imagine, when the positivity rates of the state is around 30%, to be down about 1 and 2%, you're bound to have sometimes a few inches up, and we've seen that a little bit. We're up to 3%, which is still tremendous for as a comparison to the state. But when you have a breakout all over the state and the magnitudes as they are, you got to anticipate there are going to be some individuals. And so my admonition to all of you, please be careful for yourself and your families, because this thing is a vicious disease. And we have to do everything we can. But our positive rates are still holding. Today it was at 3%. Reflects people taking personal responsibility, and the students need to be complimented. You look around on the campuses, the students are wearing their masks, they're social distancing. Not all of them, you can find exceptions, but the vast majority, because it's a culture of responsibility that our students are doing, and I think they need to be complimented, as well as the chancellors and all the people that work. And I also would like to reach out to the staff here at Central Administration. I've designated Scott Neitzel, who's working almost around the clock, putting all the logistics together, and Ray Cross is our chief volunteer, is here every day helping out as well. So our aggressive testing protocols, of course, were noticed by Dr. Redfield when he was here. And when I talked to him and he asked me if there was a chance we could expand our testing, I said yes, but we needed resources, we needed people and tests. And that meeting here, along with Admiral Burks, when they recognized the tremendous spike on COVID, that they wanted us to do more. And that's the reason that they chose Wisconsin. He met with our COVID operations and our team and toured Madison's testing facilities, including the Wisconsin Veterinarian Diagnostic Lab, which is mobilizing the processing COVID tests from campus. Dr. Redfield was very impressed with the work of the lab, as well as the processes being done and how we had set it up. In a separate visit, Dr. Deborah Burks, a top White House COVID-19 ambassador and advisor and an ambassador, said the university's efforts to widely test students to identify asymptomatic cases earlier would help curb the silent spread of this terrible virus and protect vulnerable populations. She also spoke with our chancellors when we had the retreat. I invited her in to speak. Her speech was quite dire, but it really brought to the forefront how serious this virus is. And I think the campus chancellors were very impressed by her, and went back, realizing that the testing they're doing on our campus is tremendously important, and every single one of them stepped up. And that's what we're all working on, and that's why I think the federal government chose us as the first one to try. If it works here, then this thing will be rolled out across the country. But we're the beta case, and so we got to make it work, and everybody is standing up and doing their part. I would like now to turn to the fall enrollment, and because I'm pretty happy about this, and I hope you are as well. The official numbers show we did not suffer. I want to repeat that. We did not suffer as a system a dramatic decline, as many had feared and many other campuses had experienced. In fact, in the UW system, we were largely successful in maintaining enrollment despite this current public health course that we have inherited. Overall, our enrollments declined by only 2% system-wide, or by just under 3,200 students. And you can remember back, we didn't even know if we were going to open up. And students didn't know if they were going to kind of come, but they did come. When they found out we were opening up, they came, and we only lost 3,200 from our 170,000 students. Not unexpectedly, there was some decline in international students as well as new freshmen. That's where we suffered the decline. On the other hand, the enrollment numbers for students of color, which is, since we were talking about the scholarship program, students of colors, which we thought might be vulnerable during this current crisis, actually grew by 2%. Now, 2% is not great, but it's a trend that I hope that we can continue. I would like to point out that while we are never pleased when enrollment declines, the slight drop this fall in the UW system actually compares quite favorably to the national picture. Our overall 2% drop in undergraduate enrollment is slightly less than the national estimates of just about 5%. and also is aligned with expected demographic shifts in the state. So we got a declining student population to try and get to come to our campus from our declining high school population. And we were still able to maintain pretty much our enrollment. Our overall drop is better than the national average. More striking, however, the decline in new freshman enrollment, which although was 6%, compared to 16% nationally, according to the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center. So we did a lot better. When we decided to bring students back to campus this fall, we said it's because that's what students want. And we have found many surveys talking to students. They want to be here, they want to be in class, and the numbers certainly seem to back that up. The Chief Diversity Officer search process, and I want to thank Chancellor or Regent Saffold and Regent Walsh and all the other individuals that were involved in it. A brief update on our search for a Senior Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Officer, which is a new position here at UW System. We're nearing the finish line. I've made an offer to the individual that the clearing the search committee indicated. We had interviews with the candidates last week, or beginning Monday of this week, and it seems a long time ago. But we will be making an announcement soon. I don't want to mention it today because we haven't reached a total agreement. But Regent Walsh and I talked about it, and I wanted to bring that out to the Board of Regents that the runner-up candidate was really outstanding. And I think, President Peterson, that we need to find a role for that individual and recruit him. He would like to come to Wisconsin. Both candidates were excellent. Both of them could have done an excellent job. But I think if we could find another role for him, it would be good to help diversify our population and the senior amenities. And Karen Walsh may want to speak to that later, but we both are very impressed by the candidates. The Lion Energy Awards is the next thing I'd like to quickly cover. Finally, I'd like to remind individuals that the two University of Wisconsin System students and 4 teachers, 2 UW System students and 4 teachers are going to be recognized tomorrow in awards jointly presented by our system and the Alliant Energy Foundation. The Alliant Energy Foundation, which gives out the Earl B. Davis Jr. Achievement Award. I don't know how many of you remember Earl, but he was the head of Alliant Energy for many years, was on the Board of Regents, was chairman of the Board of Regents, was just an outstanding contributor to the city of Madison before he left to go to Atlanta. Honors the outstanding academic and community service efforts of students from traditionally underrepresented minority groups who are pursuing a degree in business or engineering at UW-Madison or UW-Platteville. The Alliant Energy Award recognized outstanding commitment to student success. And we'll be announcing those tomorrow. And that, Mr. Chairman, I know it was long, I had a lot to say, but it concludes my report. And thank you for listening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, President Thompson. We do have a full agenda, but I just want to take a couple seconds to make a couple of remarks. When you think about the report that you just heard about the fact that we're getting 250,000 additional tests to blanket the state and serve not only our campuses, but our communities, it's pretty remarkable. I had the opportunity and the good fortune to participate in the discussions with Dr. Redfield. It was clear and evident that the level of trust, admiration, and confidence in our abilities was the reason why we are the first university system to serve as this beta. We're not only getting 250,000 tests. I think it could have been an overlooked statistic. We're getting over 210 federally funded employees to supplement and assist our campus testing efforts. Again, that is a remarkable cost savings and community benefit that we will derive based on this partnership. multiple federal, state, and local agencies were involved, 1,000 personalities, and likely 1 million details. As President Thompson said, Vice President Scott Neitzel is quarterbacking this effort, and the entire central administration is involved. But as I understood Saturday evening, Scott may have stayed here overnight. He has been tireless in his efforts and advocacy and has brought this to fruition. And so I again echo President Thompson's remarks. This is a huge public health initiative. It comes at exactly the right time for all the wrong reasons, but we'll be making those community efforts to stop the spread, which is a great transition to our next topic. We'll hear more about the collaboration between UW system universities and Wisconsin businesses and health organizations to raise public awareness and prevent the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. At this time, I'm going to ask President Thompson to tell us more and to introduce our panelists this morning.
Thank you very much, President Peterson. Thank you for your kind remarks too about this. You got to realize University of Wisconsin is being singled out in the country for doing this, and we got to do it right, because if we do it right, it's going to reduce the spread, and we will be an example to be adopted by other states and other universities, hopefully across the country. But thank you, President Peterson. I'm going to start by sharing a brief public service announcement. Could somebody? This was not my idea to show this, but I was overruled.
We face real challenges this year, and the virus continues to spread in our state. But each of us has it in our power to turn things around. We did it on our UW campuses. It's time to mask up, buckle down, wash your hands, maintain social distance. Come on, Wisconsin. Together, we can do this.
This is several weeks ago, the University of Wisconsin system joined with more than 30 businesses, healthcare advocacy groups, and others from around the state to form the Stop the COVID Spread Coalition. Our goal is to work together to raise public awareness about the seriousness of the pandemic and the critical need for preventative measures. The video you just saw is the coalition's first public service announcement. It's now running on broadcast channels statewide, as well as part of a paid digital campaign. And after a PSA featuring 3 members of the Green Bay Packers, the latest PSA features Katie, a registered nurse at Theta Care Regional Medical Center in Appleton, one of the regions of the state which is the hardest hit by the growing crisis. And since its launch, the coalition has grown dramatically. It now includes nearly 100 of Wisconsin's leading healthcare, business, and advocacy organizations, and more than 40 chambers of commerce from communities all across Wisconsin have recently joined this effort. The COVID-19 is a true public health emergency, the likes of which we have not seen in a century. Last one was the Spanish flu in 1918. For my years as Secretary of Health and Human Services and dealing with major crises like the 9/11 terrorist attack, SARS, monkeypox, anthrax, I know personally how vitally important it is that we band together to fight this common foe. In this case, it's the pandemic. Each of us in this coalition has unique strengths and resources that we bring to the fight, even as we continue to learn more about the virus and what is most effective in mitigating its impact. Amid all the continuing uncertainties, however, I do know one thing for certain: nobody can do this alone. We have to be all in this together. Success requires a broad and a unified commitment from all of us. I am pleased to bring together today 3 of our wonderful UW chancellors, as well as several leaders of business and health organizations who are part of this coalition. Each will briefly share some of what they're doing and their successes as well as their challenges, and what they've learned along the way. I'm going to first call on the outstanding chancellor from Eau Claire, Jim Schmidt, as well as Christine Hilmer, president and CEO of the Wisconsin Restaurant Association. I know Jim he keeps calling me and telling me that he's down pounding the pavement along Water Street. Corey, we know where that is, and we're both wearing the Eau Claire masks. And Jim has been down there telling students social distance and be careful, don't get in crowds. He's talking to local businesses, urging a very collaborative approach. I couldn't be more proud of anybody than Jim Schmidt, as well as all the other chancellors doing this job. And Christine brings the perspective of so many restaurant owners whose businesses have been severely, and I mean that severely, impacted by this health crisis. The Restaurant Association, you may recall, co-signed a letter in late August with the UW system, asking restaurant and bar owners to enforce mask mandates and ensure. What's wrong, Jeff?
It's you twice.
Huh?
It's you. You're getting a loop back.
Chancellor Schmidt, will you start us off?
I'd be happy to do that. Thank you, President Thompson and President Peterson, for the opportunity to talk about what we're up to in Eau Claire. First of all, we're very proud to be starting our expanded testing for off-campus students, faculty, and staff, and more broadly in our community. We opened the testing center at 8 o'clock, and Scott Neitzel, I'm told our supplies arrived at 8:35. So we've made do, and we will get this done. I'm also proud to talk about our broader success story in UW-Eau Claire, working with our area community. First and foremost, we identified the key message that we found needed to be communicated to our off-campus community. We, UW-Eau Claire, and the business community have the same thing in common: keeping students healthy and on campus in Eau Claire. Our students wanted in-person classes and other campus experiences, and our businesses depend on the economic impact when our students are in town, along with an active faculty and staff. It's a massive economic impact. UW-Eau Claire developed a proactive outreach plan, and we took the lead. We partnered with Eau Claire City County Health Department, Eau Claire Chamber of Commerce, Visit Eau Claire, our tourism organization, the Chippewa Valley Economic Recovery Task Force, the UW-Eau Claire Police, and the City Police Department to hold our very first Water Street Summit on Monday, August 24th, 1 week before classes began. We set up a virtual meeting, met with several bar and restaurants in the Water Street Business District. Water Street, for those of you who aren't familiar, is the business area that abuts our campus. It is very popular both with students and community members. We've been communicating for months to our on-campus community about staying safe during the pandemic, but our students, faculty, and staff do leave campus and they interact with businesses throughout the Eau Claire Chippewa Valley region routinely. And those entities were not familiar with our own communication efforts. We realized that we needed to share all the effort we put forth, educate the closest business zone, Water Street District, and our downtown. And we needed them to know that we needed their help. We needed their help in keeping our campus and broader community safe and healthy. Positive messaging from the outside helped immensely. We're in this with you. We have a common goal, keeping our students healthy and in our classrooms and in our town. Here's what we did and what we continue to do at Eau Claire. We need to start by being honest. We in higher ed tend to live in a bubble, and we're not acutely aware that folks outside our campuses are not up to speed on everything we do and how we operate as a campus. So the first important step was to let our businesses know how much time and effort we are putting into keeping our campus safe during the COVID-19 crisis. Although we could keep them safe on campus, we knew as soon as they went into the community, things start to shift. They were really astounded with what they heard. All of the groups were on the call were shocked at how we were communicating with our campus to manage the COVID-19 spread. Signage, social media updates, emailed messages, chancellor town halls, videos and recorded messages, printed posters, floor stickers to denote 6-foot spacing, grab-and-go meals, extreme cleaning of classrooms and common areas, providing masks, hand sanitizer, thermometers, and a special Blue Gold protocol, which is an app developed in conjunction with the Mayo Clinic, as well as providing extensive testing services. After I explained our efforts, planning, and communication, the businesses on the call took notice, and they agreed. Keeping students in town safe and healthy would literally help their bottom lines as well. They knew if they crammed packed their bars and restaurants in the first week of class, they would make more money. But if in week 2 they were no longer here for the rest of the year, it was going to hurt in the long run. So they got it, and they understood that we were in it together. To my astonishment, one of Eau Claire's most popular bar owners stepped forward and suggested, "Chancellor, we appreciate everything you're doing for us and for the community, and we're prepared to shut down for 2 weeks if you think that would help at the beginning of the school year." I was blown away because a lot of people have demonized the tavern owners and restaurants, but I need to say I'm proud of the efforts that happen in Eau Claire. Everything isn't perfect, but they understand it is in their interests to keep the students healthy because that's how they'll remain customers for the rest of the year. I was not prepared to ask them to take the 2 weeks off. The 2 weeks off may have helped in a crisis, but we found that by them limiting the number of people in there, enforcing mask wearing and other preventative steps, that was going to be better in the long run. And we didn't stop there. We talked through strategies and we agreed that more communication, positive communication, encouraging young people to stay home, mask up, and not attend parties was the smart things to do. We sent a mass letter to all landlords in Eau Claire as well to remind them to remind their tenants that there are bad outcomes if they have large gatherings in their home and to remind them the terms of their lease. And then we hit the streets. We did knock and talks in the neighborhoods that our students live to talk to students in person, living off campus, encouraging them to gather in small numbers. Keep your circle small, no parties, stay home as much as you can and stay safe. But most of all, we were able to say we were proud of them, that they were doing a great job and it was paying off. I have to tell you, it was awfully startling for students the week that classes opened up. As you might expect, in people's backyards, they gather around a little fire in their lawn chairs and enjoyed the beautiful Eau Claire weather in the fall. But all of a sudden, this rather large guy would show up in the shadows reflecting off their fire. And, oh, look who's there, the chancellor just wandered into the backyard. I found if I listened to her music and listen for voices, I could just show up and just remind everyone to keep healthy. I have to tell you, I was really proud. Students really were keeping their groups 4 to 6. And then later this fall, when we went to knocking on front doors as it got cooler, it was awfully surprising for them to see either me, UW-Eau Claire police chief, the head of our city county health department, our public educator on campus, and other members of health services on their front step to remind them to keep it healthy, keep it safe. Our main job was to thank them and to remind them that what they're doing is working. To date, UW-Eau Claire, along with community partners, has done 10 knock and talk visits throughout our off-campus community, knocking on over 600 doors. We visited the Water Street bars and restaurants a half a dozen times. One of the nights we were down in the Water Street, it was a beautiful night. It was after 10 o'clock, and there wasn't a soul on the street. It looked like a bad sci-fi movie. Yes, there were a few people in the bars, but in many cases, it was just a handful. So I really think that the work with the bars and restaurants has paid off. As we heard from Dr. Burks when she visited UW a couple of weeks ago, found that it isn't so much some of these large gatherings, it's these small gatherings. We were back re-educating people. It's when you let your guard down and you're hanging out with 6 to 8 or even 10 of your friends, that's where we're starting to see more of the transmission than in some of these other public venues. Our partnership also with the Eau Claire City County Health Department has been invaluable. In December, we collaborated with the Health Department to create a series of our own public service announcements focused on students returning to school. And thanks to our relationships with the various media outlets, both of our television stations ran those PSAs at no cost to us for many weeks. We did ramp up our efforts for homecoming week, and I have to tell you that went well, reminding people to stay safe. And then we moved on to Halloween. And our student body president, Ann Isabel, and I again continued our door knocking campaign. We started a social media plan. We came up with all kinds of virtual entertainment around Halloween to encourage people to stay home, including the infamous pumpkin drop off our tallest residence hall. So that was quite the scene, and our yard was littered with pieces of pumpkin. It's all cleaned up, but the students had a lot of fun and could do it virtually because we were videoing it the whole way. We continue to do our work with our community. The Chamber of Commerce has been an early important sponsor in trying to keep everyone in the Chippewa Valley being very pragmatic. We're reaching out to people to thank them for everything they've done to minimize the spread the best we can. We know it's been a difficult time for everyone. We're thanking people for following the mitigation steps. It would be so much worse in Eau Claire and the state of Wisconsin if these universities weren't taking all of these steps in our community. This is the epitome of the Wisconsin idea. When the state is challenged, the UW system steps up. We step up with partnerships. We step up by reminding that we all have a shared interest. And I'm proud to report that these efforts, combined with all of the health steps we've taken that really kicked off with the Water Street Summit at the end of August, has paid off. Our average positive testing rate has been typically below 4%. And today's starting of new off-campus testing in our faculty and staff, I know will make all the difference in the world. Thank you for your time. Happy to answer questions if you have them.
Thank you, Chancellor, and quickly point out that yesterday you had 340 cases, tests of antigen, 0 positive rate. Congratulations, and thank you for doing what you're doing, Jim. Now we'll go to Christine Emmer from the Restaurant Association, and thank you. I just haven't had a chance to personally thank you, Christine, but you're signing the letter with me and doing what you're doing is amazing, and thank you very much.
Well, good morning, President Thompson, Regent President Peterson, Chancellor Schmidt, and Regents. As a proud UW alumni, it is really my honor to be here this morning. Thank you for allowing me to tell the story of how this pandemic has affected the restaurant industry and help explain why the Stop the COVID Spread Coalition is so very, very important. I'm Christine Hilmer. I'm President and CEO of the Wisconsin Restaurant Association. The WRA represents 1,500 members with more than 7,000 locations around this great state. Pre-pandemic, the restaurant industry represented $10.1 billion in sales, almost 285,000 jobs, and nearly 13,000 eating and drinking establishments in our state. Collectively, we are the second largest private employer in the United States. The impact on our industry has been severe. Our latest economic data is indicating that without further congressional financial help, nearly 50%, 1 in 2, of restaurants in our state will not survive. This means that independent, family-owned Main Street businesses will no longer be there to support our communities. It means irreparable harm to the amazing food culture that we all hold dear. This is a catastrophic extinction level event for restaurants, their staff, and the communities that they serve. And for some parts of our state, it increases the food insecurities that they're already facing when restaurants are no longer there. And the ripple effect to other businesses who support these restaurants will be felt far and wide, including suppliers, distributors, manufacturers, and farmers, as well as the communities who all count on restaurants to be part of their food chain. This is why it is so important for the Wisconsin Restaurant Association to be part of the Stop the COVID Spread Coalition. We need to be part of the solution, helping everybody understand that we need to work together to mask up, practice social distancing, wash our hands, and limit our exposure in large groups. Restaurants and businesses cannot do this alone. It will require every person in the Badger State to do their part. Restaurants are proving that their sanitation practices are working, as we have not seen widespread spread of the virus when the cases come into the restaurant. But we cannot do this alone and urge everybody to do their part. The virus is not going away, but by pulling together, we can stop the spread and get relief to our small businesses, citizens, hospitals, and medical systems. We can help businesses like restaurants survive and be around when this is done. And thank you, Chancellor Jim Schmidt, for all your efforts in collaborating with your local businesses in Eau Claire. It's a great example of what we can do together. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to tell the story of how the COVID-19 pandemic is affecting restaurants.
Thank you very much, Catherine. It was wonderful, and thank you so very much for Kristen for your support and the Restaurants Association. Next, I'd like to call on outstanding chancellor from Green Bay, Michael Alexander, and Nancy Wenzel, who is the CEO of the Wisconsin Association of Health Plans. I know UW Green Bay has been working very closely with Prevea Health in Northeast Wisconsin, and just have been doing an excellent job with the chancellor in Green Bay as well as Oshkosh for COVID testing. And it's been a very successful partnership. The Association of Health Plans is the voice of 12 community-based health plans that provide health insurance coverage in every county in the state to individuals, employers, and government programs. Wisconsin health plans are working tirelessly to ensure their members get the care, the coverage, and support they need during this terrible, insidious COVID-19 healthcare crisis. Chancellor Alexander, I just would like to point out, Green Bay yesterday did 308 tests, and they had 6 positive for a 3% positivity rate. Chancellor Alexander, you've just done an outstanding job. Could you take it away and give the Board of Regents an update?
Thank you, President Thompson and Regent President Peterson, for the opportunity to talk this morning. I speak to the board from a very humble position, in the idea that I know that any of my chancellor colleagues and all the institutions in the UW system could easily be making the same speech I am making today. I think what happened in our response is really the best of systems. We've all collaborated, we've all learned from each other. And we've allowed each campus to be able to use their particular idiosyncrasies to create a plan to stop the spread in their own environment. I'm also incredibly grateful to Prevea. We have a 1% positivity rate since the pandemic has started at UW Green Bay. And that's done through a huge team effort. And Dr. Rai at Prevea, we're incredibly grateful. Once UW system and President Thompson was able to get us the tests, we worked directly with Dr. Rai and Prevea to come up with a testing plan, to activate it, and to make sure that we were following the plan very strictly throughout the time that we come back in person. We've also been able to rely on Prevea as a place we can go to check ideas, to make sure that everything we were doing was checked by medical professionals and approved to make sure what we were doing was safe. There are countless people on our campus that I could thank and across our community, but a few I would like to mention is the people who have volunteered to be contact tracers. So I believe a lot of what has caused us to keep our rate low is not just the testing, but it's the fact that we've been very aggressive anytime that we find someone who is asymptomatic and tested positively, to get them isolated and quarantined as fast as possible, as well as everybody else that they've been in contact with. Our faculty and advisors, our Office of Student Success, our frontline staff and residence life and beyond have all worked together to treat the whole student and all of our students to help them be able to stop the spread. We've also, like Chancellor Schmidt mentioned, worked a lot with our marketing department to be able to help communicate what's going on to our faculty, staff, and students and to our broader community. And I think what's important about this is that we have talked a lot to our students, but we've trusted them. We've told our students that we're going to trust them to do the right thing, and luckily they have. We also view this very much on our campus as a duty to our community, a duty to our students, and it's a duty for us to do this well, not a burden. While obviously, people have worked countless hours and incredibly hard, we're proud of the attitude we've had as a campus towards addressing this, and I know that everyone across the UW system has had. We look to serve our community, we look to help it solve problems, and we help to make it a better place. And I'm really proud to serve this institution and the state of Wisconsin. It's an amazing, amazing place, and very proud to be able to be a part of it. So with that, I know it's been great to meet Nancy Wenzel, and I know that she now has some comments as well.
Thank you very much, Chancellor Alexander. You did a great job and are doing a great job. Keep it up, and good luck on the surge capacity testing. And now I would like to call upon Nancy Wenzel, who is my good friend and the head of the Association of Health Plans. Nancy, don't know where you are, but can't see you, but please start out. Can you hear us, Nancy?
I can hear you. The question is, can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you yet.
I know. I cannot get the video to open. Of course.
Nancy would like to see your beautiful face, so please turn on your video, Nancy.
Well, I'm trying and it will not start. So if you can hear me, how about if I just proceed?
Please do, Nancy. We can hear
All
you
right.
loud and
Thank
clear.
you.
And
I saw my mug earlier when we were testing, and I am sorry that it has disappeared. Thank you, Chancellor Alexander, and good morning, President Thompson and members of the Board of Regents. I'm very pleased to join you today to provide a high-level overview of the work Wisconsin's community-based health plans are doing to support their members and their communities during the COVID-19 crisis. As I always want to call you Governor. As President Thompson said, the association covers, has a membership organization of 12 health plans, and we provide health insurance coverage through a fully insured model to about a quarter of the state's population. Since the start of the pandemic, these Wisconsin health plans have been in near constant communication with their members to educate them on the best ways to protect themselves and others during the pandemic. Health plans are educating their members on best strategies to use their health insurance and stay healthy. They're guiding their members to access the right care in the right setting. That means seeing your own doctor for preventative services and wellness, and also getting access to urgent care, virtual care, and emergency care as appropriate. Health plans are also facilitating individualized outreach to high risk and vulnerable population, such as the elderly and individuals with chronic conditions, pre-existing conditions. They are enlisting social workers and case managers to access general wellness, potential social isolation, management of chronic conditions, and also understanding necessary community supports such as food. At the start of the COVID crisis, Wisconsin health plans acted quickly to ensure their members could continue to safely access the care they needed. Health plans expanded and encouraged the use of telehealth, often with zero or minimal cost sharing. Health plans also quickly adjusted their policies to provide expanded and earlier access to prescription drugs, mental health supports, and access to virtual wellness and fitness classes. Wisconsin health plans continue to play a key role in ensuring cost is not a barrier to COVID testing and care, while closely following changing state and federal guidelines. Before being required to do so, Wisconsin health plans covered COVID-19 diagnostic testing without cost sharing. They continue to provide up-to-date information about where and how to get tested and the steps to take when experiencing COVID-19 symptoms. Health plans also have provided financial relief to individuals and business during these challenging economic times, offering payment flexibility and financial assistance such as grace periods, premium discounts, premium rebates, and cost-sharing waivers. Wisconsin's community-based health plans are partnering with government, other healthcare stakeholders, and businesses to ensure their members get the care, coverage, and supports they need to weather this very challenging COVID crisis. To avoid a twindemic this winter, health plans are laser focused on making it easy, safe, and convenient for members to get their flu vaccines as soon as possible. To help those who lost their employer-sponsored insurance because of COVID, health plans are working with state government officials and other stakeholders to promote open enrollment for individual subsidized marketplace coverage and are also providing information for those who may be eligible for Medicaid. Finally, Wisconsin health plans are proud to add their voices to the Stop the COVID Spread Coalition. By working together, they are helping to magnify the message that we must stop the spread of COVID in Wisconsin for individuals' health, for our community's health, and for this great state. Thank you so much for allowing me to share with you the work of Wisconsin's local health plans. We know we're all in this together, and we appreciate everything the university is doing, all our partners are doing to try to grapple with this very difficult and challenging time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy. I appreciate it very much, and thanks for being on. Now we go to the great chancellor from Madison, the UW Chancellor Becky Blank, as well as Eric Borgendine, who is president and CEO of the Wisconsin Hospital Association. And Becky's going to talk about the vital role played by UW-Madison health professionals at UW Health through this pandemic. And I want to thank you, Becky, for all that you do. And she's going to present it from the perspective of both clinical and public health, as well as the research enterprise of our system. The Wisconsin Hospital Association, which really spearheaded the Stop the Spread Coalition. I thank you, Eric, for your leadership, and you're going to share with us how COVID spread is increasingly stressing out our outstanding healthcare system and challenging, especially the beds in our hospital system. You are the head of a system that has the healthcare heroes, which I compliment and thank all of those heroes who are on the front line fighting this terrible disease. So, Becky, would you start out and give us an update on Madison?
Thank you very much. And I appreciate being part of Stop the Spread Coalition. It's got the right people at the table, and we're very proud to be part of it. UW-Madison has been deeply involved in the response to the coronavirus. We have scientists working to develop vaccines, running clinical trials, developing PPE to keep frontline workers safe. I could literally give dozens of examples, but I will limit myself to 3. Partnership with the CDC. Our School of Medicine and Public Health is working with the Centers for Disease Control, as well as public health agencies here in Wisconsin, to improve our understanding of how COVID spreads using our college campus as a test site. We give students behavioral surveys at the start of the semester. We are testing students in a variety of ways, working jointly with CDC. And when we pair the test responses with the behavioral surveys, we're hoping to be able to develop patterns as to what is it that puts people at greater risk of becoming ill and of how ill they become, and just trying to look at the whole progression of this disease and how it develops among different types of people and how that relates back to their behavior. Secondly, wastewater surveillance program. I suspect many of you have heard about this in one form or another. we have a collaboration underway with the UW-Milwaukee School of Freshwater Sciences to sample about 100 wastewater treatment facilities statewide, and that includes several locations on our campus, to look for the genetic fingerprint of the coronavirus. The virus shows up in wastewater often before anyone has any symptoms. So this is an early warning system to see whether COVID-19 is starting to spread and allowing us and others to prepare. And then the AstraZeneca trial. A third example is SMPH's partnership with UW Health, which is doing clinical trials for the AstraZeneca vaccine. This is an international study involving literally tens of thousands of people. It is one of many efforts to try to develop an effective vaccine as quickly as possible. This is just a tiny fraction of the work that we are doing. We currently have 430 individuals who either have received grants or put forward proposals on things that relate to COVID-19. It's happening everywhere on campus. People sometimes ask, how is it that we can jump into this so quickly? And the answer in part is that we have a head start. And we have a head start because of the basic research that we do. And I want to close by telling you a story that gives you an example of how this basic research that we do across campus on what often seems to be very arcane and obscure topics can, decades later, make a huge difference when a crisis hits. In the late 1960s, Professor Thomas Brock, to whom we gave an honorary degree in 2019, discovered a microbe in the springs at Yellowstone National Park that was unremarkable in any way except one. It was capable of living in water that was about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And before he discovered this, scientists hadn't believed any living organism could live at temperatures that were that hot. Well, that was an interesting result. He got some attention within his very small field. But one might say it, didn't have earth-shaking effects. But years later, we're now turning to the 90s, literally 30 years later, scientists unearthed his research when they started doing DNA-related research, genetic research, and they needed a way to amplify DNA under very high temperatures. And they needed to attach the DNA to something that wouldn't die in those high temperatures. It's that process that actually is involved in virtually all genetic research, as well as genetically related testing. Well, the microbe discovered by Tom Brock was perfect for that job. And it is that method that is currently used for genetic testing, including the PCR testing that all of us use for sort of the gold standard of monitoring this disease progress. That is the value of basic scientific research, that research done almost exclusively at universities like UW-Madison with no obvious immediate application turns out to make a huge difference in the world 20, 30, 40, even 50 years later. That's why we're not just taking lots of immediate steps to jump in and work on the coronavirus in every way that we can in responding to this social, economic, and medical crisis. But we are also doing the sort of basic research today on often obscure topics that when the next crisis hits in 30 or 40 years, we will be ready to jump into that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Blank. As always, you give such an impressive presentation. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to go to my friend Eric Borgening, and who really started the association, came up with the idea, and is just doing a wonderful job. I just want everybody to know the hospital system is under a lot of stress, and the beds are full, and we've got a hospital set up at State Fair Park. And Eric, you're just doing a wonderful job, and I'll call upon you now for your presentation.
Well, thank you very much, President Thompson. Thanks for the invitation, as well as you, Drew. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. And also, I really want to thank the UW system for the work it is doing, not only on testing, which is critical, really critical, but for the platform that you are giving today, as well as ongoing, to bring attention to the true critical nature and severity of COVID-19 in Wisconsin. These voices of leaders are really important and greatly appreciated. And I also want to it's an honor to be paired with Chancellor Blank. I'm a proud alum of UW-Madison, as are two of our three children, and it is also home to one of the finest academic medical centers in the country. One of our great members, the University of Wisconsin Hospitals and Clinics, who's just doing fantastic work, not only around research, but for caring for patients. And President Thompson, thank you for participating in that PSA that you just showed not too long ago, but also even before that, you partnered with WHA and some other organizations to do a PSA commercial that we ran statewide talking about the importance of seeking care during the pandemic. So it's all this is greatly appreciated, and especially the work you're doing on testing. Wisconsin's hospitals and health systems have been shouldering the majority of all the testing that's been going on in Wisconsin, and they are proud and pleased to do it, but we know we need more. And the resources that the federal government is bringing to the table in collaboration with UW campuses, state government is greatly appreciated to expand that testing capacity. So thank you. The collaboration around battling this truly serious pandemic is absolutely critical. And I'm going to give you some numbers that put some context around the urgency of these partnerships and these collaborations. As I think everyone knows or should know, Wisconsin is now among one of the hottest of hotspots for COVID in the country. We are setting records almost every day, both in terms of new cases as well as hospitalizations. The pandemic is pretty much now everywhere in Wisconsin, where we have almost 250,000 confirmed cases, and I predict we'll eclipse that mark very soon. As the governor mentioned, Wisconsin hospitals, many of which, sometimes over half already, are operating at full capacity. And really, I can't say enough about the hospitals, the health systems, the doctors, the nurses, the technicians, the food service workers, the custodial staff, all of those people who are on the front lines, literally on the front lines of Wisconsin's battle against COVID, and everything they are doing to fight this pandemic. It is they truly are healthcare heroes, and I think we all know that. But we want to thank those healthcare heroes. I think we can take some very important and simple steps with our own behaviors to do that, like wearing masks, social distancing, and those other things. But back to some of the statistics. Wisconsin now has 7 of the top 20 cities on a per capita basis in terms of new COVID cases. 7, about a third on a per capita basis of the top 20 states in terms of COVID spread. The collaboration that we're talking about here today, which is incredibly important and welcome, could not come at a more important time. The current 7-day average of new cases in Wisconsin is about 4,800, closer to 4,850. And just to put that into context, on September 3rd, just about 2 months ago, that number was 674. So from 674 average positive cases a day to now over 4,800. Same with hospitalizations. As of yesterday, we had 1,747 COVID inpatients in Wisconsin hospitals. On September 5th, that number was 275. And COVID is happening at the same time as other sort of illnesses, other types of things are happening in our society and within our healthcare system. So it truly is putting really recently, at least, unprecedented stress right now on our healthcare system, and underscoring the importance of working together to curb the demand for those COVID-related healthcare services. And perhaps most tragic in terms of statistics, the number of deaths that we are experiencing due to COVID. On November 4th, the average number of newly reported deaths on a daily basis was 37. Back in early September, that number was 6. So COVID is clearly spreading at a unprecedented rate in our state, and we are also seeing the effects of COVID spread in our state, both in terms of its stress on the healthcare system and its impact on the citizens of Wisconsin. So that, among other reasons, is why WHA was very proud to partner with many other organizations, a very diverse coalition, a multi-industry coalition, 2 of whom of our partners have been on this call, Wisconsin Association of Health Plans and the Wisconsin Restaurants Association, 3 of which, I should say, including the UW system, to form the Stop the COVID Spread Coalition. It's grown substantially since we started it just about a month ago. It is a truly unique coalition, bringing together organizations from multiple industries, all behind one unified purpose, and that is to slow the spread of COVID in the state, and to do it by urging all of our constituencies and all of Wisconsin to really take 3 simple steps. Wear a mask, socially distance, and wash your hands frequently. Those 3 things, if we practice them diligently and adhere to them regularly, we think will greatly reduce not only the spread of COVID in Wisconsin, but its growing impacts on our healthcare system and Wisconsin's economy as we move forward. So thanks again for the opportunity to be here. Thank you so much for the work that the campuses across the state are doing. I could not be more grateful for the leadership from UW system in being a partner in this fight, and now very much in a hands-on way in the great work you're doing, including in conjunction with many of our members like Prevea and Green Bay, the great work you're doing on testing, a really critical tool in battling and winning this fight against COVID in Wisconsin. So thanks for the time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Eric. Appreciate it very much. Are there any questions from members of the Board of Regents to any members of the panel?
Maybe just a comment to kick things off of, Eric and Christine and Nancy and all of the other stakeholders. I mean, I think you filled a very important void, and you've been able to demonstrate clearly the importance of not only a wide array of industry groups coming together for a common purpose. It's also been bipartisan. I think it's been well received throughout the state. Couldn't come in a more timely fashion. As Eric rightly pointed out, we have other viruses that are now, upon us with flu season, and the resources and the added attention and the focus on being good community stewards is sometimes over corporate activities, association governance, and it's all about doing what's right for the state. And to all of you who led on this, it's been very impressive to see the, again, wide array of folks that you've been able to assemble. It's making a difference. It's helping our campuses. It's helping the communities that we serve. And for that, I'm certainly grateful. Questions of Regents? Regent Walsh.
I wonder if 1 or 2 of the chancellors could comment on what kind of efforts are being made on the campuses with regard to getting students to get their flu shot.
Great question.
Michael, I see
I can
you up
comment
there.
on
May I
that.
call on you?
Yeah.
Or Becky?
Yeah, I can comment on that. We ordered a very large number of flu shots last May, worrying that if we ordered them later, we weren't going to get them. And this was both for our staff and faculty as well as for our students. And we've done a major push across campus in the dorms and outside the dorms to message that there are free flu shots available and people need to come get them. I don't know where the numbers stand right now. I think we're around 20 to 25%. That may not sound high, but on a college campus to get people to take a vaccination, it's actually quite a large number.
Okay.
Let me respond a little bit. We've done something unique. I've talked to the CEO of Wendell, and they have a test that's starting out that it's the same test, but it tests for both. Tests for the flu as well as this, so we can determine right away. And we ordered, and the CEO, I ordered, was 200,000? 200,000 of those tests that are going to be delivered by Quinnell. So we will not have to, we don't have to wait, and you don't have to determine, and you can be able to figure it out. So we're ahead of that. We put out a lot of public announcements. Get your flu shot. And so announcements plus a test that test for both is going to be extremely helpful.
Regent Bogost.
Yes, thank you very much to all the presenters. That was really very, very helpful and informative. I think it was Chancellor Schmidt that talked about contact tracing and how successful it's been for your campus. I think I have that right. So I was just wondering if you could elaborate how that's been successful, and I'm just curious if things are going well on other campuses as well with contact tracing, because I know in the beginning that's been very difficult.
I'd be happy to comment on that. I don't know if I was the chancellor that brought that up, but I can comment for Eau Claire. It has been very successful. Early on, our public health office was overwhelmed, and we agreed to take on all of the contact tracing for any UW-Eau Claire related cases of the virus. And we know with the new testing that we're rolling out today, it'll increase by far the number of people recorded incidences of COVID-19. And although people may be surprised to see it go up, in the long run, we know that that's going to bring these numbers down. Because to your point, the reason you do testing of asymptomatic people is to, as soon as possible, identify that person, get them isolated, and immediately follow up. If you see them when they're asymptomatic and day 1, 2, 3 of them carrying and able to shed the virus, it's far better than them going through that entire period not knowing they have it and shedding that virus. As many people know, athletics has taken a big shift this year for Division III. None of our fall sports are competing this fall, and in fact, the WIAC, which is the conference for 8 of the universities in our system, have no competition at least through the end of 2020. We haven't made that decision yet about going into the rest of the winter season. But almost all of our coaches and assistant coaches have been trained in that area and are participating in it. Just this week, with the added outbreak in Wisconsin and new testing, we put out a call to all of our vice chancellors in our divisions to identify an additional 3 to 4 people per division that could be reassigned for the remainder of the year for this work. We are fortunate. We had sent up a student communication center last January, primarily as an enrollment service, something to reach out to prospective students. We had this great telephone computer infrastructure put in place in one command center. It worked for enrollment for about a month until the pandemic started. We immediately converted it for that use.
Amy, to give you a perspective from the center, we have contracted and contacted all the local health departments. The contact tracing was supposed to be done by the county health departments, but as you can well imagine, in many areas they just can't keep up. Eau Claire, Jim has done an excellent job of meeting with the county health department. Mark Money has. We've got a great relationship in Milwaukee, but not all the county health departments have been that willing to cooperate. Not being critical, they're just overworked. It's like the hospital helpers. And everybody's trying those part, but in some areas, we do much better. In other areas, we're not doing as good of an area of contact tracing. We're trying to find ways to use students and other ways to do it, but it's been really under the purview of the county health departments. It's supposed to do that. Some are doing much better than others, but it's a mixed bag at this point in time. And with this extra testing, it's going to be probably less and less contact tracing, just so everybody knows. But if we test more, that's even better than the contact tracing because we'll have the actual test. So it's you lose on one, but we're gaining much more on the other side. Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
Other questions or Regents on the phone?
Drew, before I turn it back to you, I'd just like to make one quick statement. As you know, I said I was going to be the biggest advocate for the university system when I took over. And we have, I thought, for the last while, we've been criticized as a system from too many outside sources. And I think my idea of the new Wisconsin idea is for the University of Wisconsin to be front and center and to be leaders and going out and doing it. This testing is a prime example with all the chancellors doing an outstanding job. Central administration, our staff is just working overboard. CDC and everybody is recognizing us. But it's the new Wisconsin idea. We're no longer embarrassed about being part of the university system. We're going to be out there advocates and being problem solvers in this COVID, which is a terrible, insidious, infectious disease, but it gives us the opportunity to show the people of the state and the legislature that the University of Wisconsin is committed to helping Wisconsin do better. And I just want to thank everybody and thank the Board of Regents for their support as well. And thank all of the presenters. You guys did a great job. I'm happy to work with all of you and very, very appreciative of the effort that each and every one of you have done, and all the other chancellors who are also doing a great job.
Well, at this time, I'd echo those sentiments again. Thanks for being with us all here today. Let's give our panelists a round of applause. Okay, we're going to move on to item 8. We've got a few business items that need to be taken care of before our committees meet again in December. Let's start by having Senior Associate Vice President Alex Rowe tell us about our first request, a request from UW-Milwaukee. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Regent President Peterson and the members of the Board of Regents. Thank you for taking up this item on behalf of UWM here this morning. So on behalf of the university, we are requesting permission to sell the 1923 Alumni House property located several blocks from the main campus. The property was added to UWM's inventory in 1949. This 20,000 square foot Tudor house has had multiple uses over the years. However, although the university uses the facility, it is limited due to the fact that it is not ADA accessible. The university has decided rather than invest funds into that property away from other activities that they might wish to invest to, they would divest themselves of this property instead. It's going to allow us to return the property to the tax rolls of the city. It reduces ongoing maintenance and operational costs for UWM. And at this moment, they are in the process of relocating the current occupants back to the main campus. And as you can see from the map enclosed, over the years, the green area is actually the technical legal boundaries of the property. However, over the years, fill has been added along the lake shore. We actually own the piece where it says pumping station. However, the current deed doesn't reflect that. When we did this map, we could only go off of what legal documents we had. Since that time, we have finished the legal documents. We do own the property all the way to the lake. We will be keeping the pumping station and the pipeline for chilled water that goes back to campus. As statute requires, we will pay the remaining debt service on the house. We did do a roof repair upgrade in 2005. And as we work with the top proposers, we can report back to you at a future board meeting how the sale went and what those final sales figures are. And that's the item before you for consideration.
Thank you, Alex. Before we take action on Resolution 8, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Regent Greavy. May I have a second?
Second, Jose Delgado.
Thank you, Jose. Discussion on this disposition of an asset. Regent Woodmansee.
Alex, I just have a quick clarifying question. So there's no plan to buy another house later from UW-Milwaukee? This is just a sale? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. This is just the sale. We have no desire to buy another property in this area. We use it pretty much for conferencing and alumni activities and some academic uses. And as it's a big house, but it's a facility that they feel that the programs in that building can be accommodated on the main campus.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Chancellor Mone. I see Regent Walsh has a question, and then I'll turn it over to you to make some comments. Good morning, Regent Walsh.
Good morning. So Alex or Chancellor Monet, maybe you can answer this question for me. So we're going to retain the pipeline rights. Are we selling all the land? Are we selling the lake shore strip as well, or we are?
Yeah, so we will retain the area where the pumping station is, and then there will be an easement along the northern edge of the property, but as that pipeline runs to the main campus. But there is a significant amount of shoreline that will be sold as part of the property.
I should think that would be quite valuable.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, particularly with valuations at the moment. Regent Bogos, do you have a question?
Just speaking of valuations, I was just curious. I'm not sure if I missed it, what the valuation is.
The appraisal.
We are working through the appraisals now. So I think after we get the final appraisals and we finish the final real estate evaluation, I'm happy to come back to the board and report out the appraisal prices. I think we have one appraisal for 1.3 million, but we're doing a second one. And I'll know better once we do the final appraisals and we negotiate with the final negotiator where we land in terms of both the sale price and then our net proceeds.
And one other question is this house covered by any state historical society or historical designation that might affect a sale or not?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
however,
one of you shaking your head no and the other one is saying yes. I'm confused.
It is protected. However, how we manage that protection, we do have to put a conservation easement on the property by statute. However, that may or may not limit future development going forward. So I would say that's probably why Chancellor's shaking his head. But I'll let Chancellor Mone speak if he wishes.
Good morning. Yeah, good to see you all. Alex has always just did a terrific job with all the background. The one comment that I would make and why I was shaking my head is that we have that covered, Regent Walsh, that there is historic preservation, but we think through the ways that we've managed this, that we're good on that front. So that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Vice Chancellor Van Harpen and myself can answer any additional questions that you've got. We've been very appreciative of how Alex and Scott Hensel have really helped coordinate with the DOA. A lot of good background work on this, but we think this is entirely consistent with Governor Thompson's recommendation about the judicious use of our assets and really doing the right thing here, simply because of the types of investments that we would have to make to keep this building operational and its very limited use away from the campus, a number of things that Alex has well said.
Great.
Thank you, Chancellor Mone. Other questions of board members? Final answer. All right. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Chancellor Mone. At this time, I'll call the question. All those in favor of Resolution 8 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. So now we'll move on to Resolution 9. This is first of two items for the University of Wisconsin at Madison, both contracts. And for that, I'll call on Vice Chancellor Heller to tell us about these two requests. Let's take them up one at a time, starting with the Gold Country contract. Lauren.
Thank you, Regent Peterson and members of the board. We're excited to bring these couple contracts to you. The first one is a proposed amendment to fencing rights and facilities rental between Gold and UW-Madison. Gold Country operates Bucky's Locker Room, which is a facility at Camp Randall and another at the Cole Center. We've had a fantastic partnership with them over the years, which has been profitable for all parties. Of course, COVID-19 has wreaked some havoc with the retail environment that they're operating within here this year. The agreement, which was approved by the board back in 2016, included a minimum revenue share guarantee, which would have been $300,000 this year if things were operating normally. Of course, with the pandemic, we've been unable to operate these facilities and needed to reduce the minimum guarantee in order to make this partnership still viable. So the agreement in front of you envisions keeping the commissions where they're at, keeping the minor considerations the athletic department receives at $25,000 of merchandise, but reduces the minimum revenue share guarantee to $0. We think this is fair and allows us to stay in partnership business with the country under these really tricky circumstances. We think the agreement will enable them to give it a shot at opening up one or both locations for some retail business. We'll have to see how that goes, whether they continue operating or not will depend on sales volume. But that's the agreement in a nutshell, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I think we understand the accommodation. Lauren, questions from members of the board? Yes, I should probably seek a motion to move Resolution 9. Given there's no questions, we'll kind of do this in reverse logic and order. Can I have a motion to approve Resolution 9? So moved.
So moved.
In a second.
Stanford Taylor.
Okay. Do we have any appropriate discussion now on this first contract? All right, hearing none, I will move the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Post same sign. Motion carries, and we're going to stay with Lauren for the second contract that we've got, which is with Shield T3, which is a very innovative and exciting contract. Lauren, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Regent Peterson. Yeah, we are particularly excited to be bringing this agreement to the board for your review. As you've heard an awful lot today, the University of Wisconsin and UW-Madison have done a ton to help out our communities, both on the university and the COVID-19 pandemic. I believe at last count, UW-Madison has performed more than 87,000 COVID tests for our community. As you may know, we're testing all students in the residence halls weekly currently, doing surveillance testing of different groups of employees and students. And we offer a free walk-up or drive-up COVID testing ability for anyone in our campus community should they need it. So we've done a whole lot there. Obviously, you've seen and followed the news about the spike which we saw earlier in the semester, and the ways in which we all got together and worked really hard to get that spike down and keep infection rates low. You may also have seen the Chancellor's announcement, perhaps that was last week, that we were intending to move to up to twice weekly testing for the spring semester for students, staff, and faculty on our campus, those who are coming to campus, starting in the spring semester. This contract is the mechanism by which we would be able to do that. So the agreement is between UW-Madison and Shield T3. They're a recently formed LLC created by the University of Illinois system. And what their mission is to advance and expand COVID testing using the saliva-based PCR approach innovated there at the University of Illinois. We're super excited to be announcing this partnership, the primary function of which would bring a mobile testing lab to the UW-Madison campus. It's a highly automated, roboticized testing lab, which can perform up to 10,000 tests per day with a very small team of folks running the testing facility. Shield provides the people, they provide the equipment, they provide the trailer, and in return, we guarantee a certain amount of testing volume. The contract suggests a testing volume of 15,000 tests per week at a price of $25 per PCR test, possibly less. We're able to go to pooled testing. Which depends on some technical factors and current infection rates, whether that really makes sense or not. But probably $25 a test. This compares super favorably with other partners we use to do this testing. The current market rate, I believe Medicare reimbursement rate is $100 per test. So this is literally 25% of the cost of other commercial options out there right now. As part of the agreement, we also get access to an application that'll be helpful for early notification of test results and other related processes. And as I said, this test could do up to 10,000 tests a day. We keep going with our current capacity at the Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, who have done fantastic work in the fall semester and driven our whole testing approach here, particularly in the last month or two. But together with the BDL capacity and the Shield T3 capacity, UW-Madison could do more than 80,000 tests per week. We don't need to do that much if it turns out that, the conditions on campus don't require it, but having the capability will be a huge boon to us here in keeping our operations going and keeping our students, staff, and faculty safe. As Chancellor Schmidt mentioned earlier, and I've heard others mention today, early detection limits the opportunity for virus spread. So the sooner we can get people tested, more frequently we can get people tested, the less opportunity there is for the virus to transmit in our communities. And so, as I said, we're super excited about this. It could wind up helping others in the state as well. The agreement does envision the possibility that others could join and have samples processed through this arrangement. Right now, we're just focusing on us, but some possibility for expansion or additional systems to others in the future. So I'll pause there and am happy to take any questions.
Yeah, I would just reiterate what we heard from Vice Chancellor Heller. I mean, this is innovative, this is cost effective. It'll be playing a very significant supporting role to all the other testing taking place at the UW system. Just another illustration of how we're both impacting our campuses as well as quite likely impacting the community of Madison and the county of Dane. So with that, I'll seek a motion for resolution 10, the contract with Shield T3. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Regent Woodmansee, may I have a second? Second. Second, Regent Greavy. Questions, discussions for Vice Chancellor Heller? Regent Bechtel, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Laurent, where's the funding? I like this program very much, but where's the funding coming from?
In essence, we've had to reallocate from our own budget in order to fund this effort. We think it's really vital to keeping all of our operations going. It's just too important that we have this buttoned down right now. So we would hope that the program could still be eligible for additional funding from the federal government or the state government, should such funds become available. But if need be, we'll reallocate from our own budget in order to fund it.
Okay. And then just a second, more of a thought, a marketing thought. In this morning's presentation, Governor Thompson referred to the freshman matriculation rate. I'm just wondering, is part of our PR plan here to go back to those students that may not have come to us in the fall, reach out to them, a nice communication that talks about how safe our campuses are, all the efforts we're making, not only to that constituency, but to others. Are we going to be doing something like that?
Oh, definitely, yes. Getting this agreement landed is a really important first step, but we will definitely need to be having many conversations on campus and with our broader community about how this new testing would work and the many safety, the good safety improvements that it would provide to the community. So yeah, once if the board approves this agreement, we'll definitely be marketing it and making sure everyone knows. We have already had numerous students who chose to be online only in the fall actually reach out and secure housing with us in the spring.
Okay.
I think last count 60 or 70 people have done that, which is exciting. We'll certainly push this information out and are willing to welcome anyone who wants to study here on campus back to campus.
Yeah, thank you. That target group is key, and then any other students that may have not matriculated back to us, regardless of what their status is. I think those would be two key constituencies to make sure we're doing a very affirmative reach out to. So I appreciate that.
Great point.
Questions from other regions? Regent Woodmansee.
Lauren, as I'm reading it now, it sounds like the 6.3 million would be for the minimum of 15,000 tests per week. And since I'm assuming with the up to 10,000 tests per day, you'll do more than 15,000 tests per week. What is the cost you're actually looking at for this contract?
Well, it's really going to be variable depending on conditions. Our testing budget for the fall semester was a little north of 13 million. In the spring, we could see that cost creep up a little bit from there. We've estimated at $1.14 million for spring semester testing. Of course, we'd be able to do a lot more at lower price per test, but the overall budget might work out to be similar to what we looked at in the fall.
Thank you.
Final questions for Lauren. All right, seeing or hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of Resolution 10, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Vice Chancellor Heller.
Thank you very much.
Bet. Our next presentation highlights the UW-Odyssey project, which is a nationally recognized program that takes a whole family approach to breaking the cycle of generational poverty through access to education. This unique program is another way the UW system is working to expand opportunities for underrepresented and underserved students, something this board actively supports. I believe Chancellor Blank would like to say a few words, and then I'll turn it over to Regent Saffold. Chancellor Blank, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, President Peterson. I am delighted to say just a little bit about the UW-Odyssey program, now in its 18th year, and to introduce Professor Emily Auerbach, who founded the project and has built it into a national model. Odyssey is a free humanities course that helps low-income adults get a jump start on college. More than 500 people have gone through, and there are now dozens of Odyssey graduates who've gone from this program to complete 2-year, 4-year, and even graduate degrees. Odyssey grads are wonderful people, as you all know, because you know Regent Corey Saffold. But many of them are very inspiring in terms of coming into this program and having it change their life. Many of them never completed high school. Many are single parents. Some come in as homeless. Some are refugees. And most simply never believed that college was something they could do. Every teacher hopes that their work somehow will change a student's life. I can tell you that Emily Auerbach has changed hundreds of students' lives and the lives of generations of families within the community who are associated with those students. She is passionate, tireless, and deeply touched by what her students can achieve. Not surprisingly, she's won a long list of awards for her teaching and her scholarship. And we are very fortunate to have her on our faculty, and I'm honored to introduce her today. And I don't know if we're going to Emily or to Regent Saffold, so I'll let the two of you take it off from here. Thank you.
To Emily Auerbach, please.
We'll go to Emily
Yes.
first. Good morning.
Thank you for those kind words and for your support of the Odyssey project, Chancellor Blank.
And thanks to President Peterson and the whole Board of Regents, especially our Odyssey alum Corey Saffold, for inviting us here today to talk about the UW-Odyssey project and to answer any questions you might have. My favorite quote about our program is from a single father who said, "The Odyssey project helped me unwrap my gifts and rewrite the story of my life." This morning, I'll give a brief overview of our program, share a 4-minute video featuring student voices, and we'll hear from 2 of our alumni, Keena Atkinson and Corey Saffold. And then I'll ask Peter Moreno and Kevin Mullen to give details about the newest part of our program, Odyssey Beyond Bars, bringing our material into the Wisconsin prisons, share some updates on how COVID has affected our program, and then open it up for what's always my favorite part, questions. We're in our 18th year of offering a free Jumpstart program in the humanities, and it is modeled after, in part, the Clementi course in humanities that my Wisconsin Public Radio colleague Jean Faraka told me about, but also after Berea College in Kentucky, where both my parents got a free gateway journey out of poverty. My mother was born in Appalachia with no running water and no one in her family expecting her to go to college. She arrived at Berea College with a wardrobe consisting of 1 skirt and 2 shirts. If someone had said you must buy an expensive textbook, she would have had to go home. And I share that detail because I think as we're looking into what kinds of programs can be there for low income students at poverty level, we really need to think about poverty and some of the barriers. My father was a different story of poverty, that of the refugee fleeing Nazi Germany. And their story of transformation, my father became a UW professor here in Madison, cancer research and zoology, my mother a medical librarian. Their story of transformation through a free gateway to higher education is underlying the Odyssey project and why I'm so passionate about this program. Also, after my mother died 8 years ago, after 62 years of marriage to my father set up an endowment in her memory that is helping to fund our program. So let me tell you about the 4 parts of our program. The core is the Odyssey project, a free interdisciplinary 2-semester evening course that we teach in South Madison, usually, now we're online, admitting 30 adults near the poverty level each year. Students undergo a profound transformation as they discuss Plato, Martin Luther King, Charles Dickens, Emily Dickinson, Frida Kahlo, and many others. Shows a pre-pandemic class traveling to the UW Student Union to get photo IDs and tour the Chazen Museum of Art. And the 4 young women on the right side, I'm looking at them, and one's now a published author. One now has graduated from UW and applied to the physician assistant program after being a refugee from Iraq. One won a Latina college scholarship and is now a nurse. And the other has an associate's degree and is now active in the Hmong community. Those are just a few of the 500 graduates of our program. And that brings us to the next slide for Onward Odyssey. Thank you. So pictured there on the left side, Keena graduating from UW-Madison with her 2 sons, and you'll hear from her shortly. Up at the top there, Josephine came here as a refugee from Sudan, graduated from Odyssey, got her bachelor's from UW, and now her master's in social work, and she's working at her dream job in the Dane County Human Services Office. Stanley, with his 2 paintings, went from incarceration to Odyssey to a graphic design degree, and he now works full-time at UW-Madison as a designer. Next slide, please. We've always had free childcare as part of what we do because we have many students who need that in order to attend our evening class. Starting in 2015, we added in an intentional enrichment program that included the older children as well. This year, for example, we have 56 children ranging in age from 2 weeks to age 17. And our goal is to help them find their voices, just like their parents are doing, to encourage a whole family approach to learning. You can see the Read to a Dog program there on the top left, and to encourage them to think of themselves as college material early on. Next slide, please. And our newest program, and I love the quote, "He who opens a school door closes a prison," is what Victor Hugo said. You can see Peter Moreno and Kevin there at the top, Kevin Mullen, and they'll be speaking in a little bit. but our newest program is bringing our Odyssey materials into Wisconsin prisons in life-changing ways. And we have taught a credit-bearing UW course in a Wisconsin prison now, the first time in over 100 years. Before I turn the presentation over to our two Odyssey alumni, I want to share a brief 4-minute video so you can imagine yourself with us in the classroom. And the best thing about this video is that the only voices you're going to hear come from our alumni. So let's see the video. I hope it works.
I always wanted to go to school, but I knew I didn't have the money or the resources. I was like, free school, like, bring it on. Free meant the barrier wasn't there. So now that I could be and do what I wanted to do.
The natural thought that we have is like, you have to be rich to go to college. So most people don't even think about college as being an option in the first place.
I was pretty miserable. I didn't really fit in with anybody. I dropped out. I was homeless for a bit. I mean, just living on people's couches.
I'm a father of 5 beautiful kids, and just the obstacles that were placed in the way of trying to raise a family at the time prohibited me from going back to school until I found the Odyssey project.
You know, we couldn't invite friends over who were embarrassed because you didn't have anything, you know, and then you hungry. We were the ones that people said didn't want it, couldn't do it. They don't want to read any Shakespeare. Like, what do we want to do?
Odyssey, if you don't know, is just an amazing program. It's a year-long course in the humanities. So we studied Plato, Socrates, Frederick Douglass, Emily Dickinson, the list goes on. So that instilled in me validation that I could be a lifelong learner.
You know, even when we got into Plato, you would hear people kind of like, I don't know Plato, but I played this out in my life.
Being in that class for a lot of people was the first time they ever felt like they were smart.
You had people from all different walks of life that everybody was hungry to learn. Like everybody was eager to listen.
Returning to school in my 40s while my older kids were still in high school, I believe it inspired them. So I have 3 college graduates.
The way you talk to your kids was going to be different. The way you encourage them was going to be different.
Odyssey Junior is wonderful. I mean, a lot of the times I would not know, I wouldn't be able to come to school. I wouldn't be able to attend regular classes without having childcare for my children. Thank goodness Odyssey does offer that. So I come to class, my children go to class, we have a ball. They look forward to Wednesdays every week. Mom, is it Wednesday yet? Is it Wednesday yet?
So here I am in a role as a teacher with Odyssey Junior, and I was so deeply inspired by the team of teachers that conduct the classes for the adults that I feel like I can give back, and hopefully I can have an impact on the youth just like they had an impact on me.
Before I took the Odyssey class, I was more reserved and like more introverted, I guess. And one thing they really do a good job with is helping you discover your own voice.
The Odyssey program has given me strength, belief. I have belief in myself that I can conquer anything.
I'm going to college.
Really changed the trajectory of my life and sparked the artistry back in me, made me believe that I was able to attain in a career as an artist.
Could spend all day singing the praises of the Odyssey project because, you know, there's school, but this transcends school. So we had all these amazing learning opportunities, but we finished, you inherit a family of support and love. Odyssey project epitomizes the Wisconsin idea like nothing I've ever saw. The sky is the limit. Thank you.
And I'm not exaggerating when I say that I could bring before the Board of Regents literally hundreds of graduates of our program who would blow you away with their resiliency, their courage, and the power of their own voices. One graduate from the class of 2010 is Keena Atkinson, and I'm happy she agreed to join us this morning to share a little bit about her story and a sample of her writing. Keena.
Hello. All right. So this is the work that I wrote. This is a poem that I wrote called Rich Poor Woman. And I'll just start it. So rich is better than poor until the cost to be rich is paid in intoxicated blows to my teenage body. Kicks and fists delivered by the father of my child, soaked in alcohol and rage. Pleas and screams for help absorbed and unanswered. Hopeless tears landing on eggshells that I didn't tiptoe on gently enough. Leave? I can't leave. That's impossible. No longer was I his girlfriend. I'd become his property. Leaving was never an option. I never imagined a life outside of stable and predictable abuse. As a little girl, we snuck out in the middle of the night, leaving everything, including the state we lived in, to escape my abusive father. And there I was again, just years later, in the same cycle with my own child this time. Rich is better than poor when starting over is a myth. If I leave him, he will find me and kill me. There's nowhere to hide, nowhere to go. Being rich seemed better when I was poor in my esteem, poor in my self-worth, poor in my understanding of love. When I left him, I had nothing. No money, no plan, and eventually no home. Just me and my toddler, starting over with nothing but freedom. I was poor, but for the first time, I felt rich. Dinner at the soup kitchen, showers at the gym, writing again, exploring hobbies and talents, laughing without guilt, smiling without fear. None of that cost me a dime. And as a poor woman, free was within my budget. Having say-so over my body every day, poor in my pockets, rich in my joy. Don't pity me, because I am now happy and free. Either I was brave enough to leave where I had nothing else to lose, facing the unknown and starting over from scratch, growing in confidence, creativity, and boldness. Every time the sun rises and every time I go to sleep without worrying about that drunken boogeyman stumbling through my front door. I know I made the right choice to start over and be poor. Everything in life comes with a sacrifice, a side effect, or a cost. And breaking this cycle of abuse was my choice. Poor isn't my name and it doesn't define me. Poor happens to be a side effect of generations of domestic abuse, untreated mental health issues turned into substance abuse. My single mother doing the best she could to raise her daughters alone with few resources, not being able to teach us something she didn't know herself, and me not being able to fix something that I didn't even know was wrong. Rich is better than poor, but poor is one of the side effects of a bigger, deeper issue that started generations ago. And I'm just working relentlessly to break free from the cycles. In this journey of growth, knowledge, and purpose, I have become a rich, poor woman, knowing no limit. I am a rich, poor woman, breaking cycles and chains. Thank you. Wow.
Thank you, Keena. And I will add that when Keena applied for the Odyssey project in 2009, she was homeless and sleeping on the floor of a barber shop. She now has her UW bachelor's degree, was featured in a UW billboard, big giant billboard, has businesses of her own and a home of her own. And she is one of the many examples of what I mentioned at the beginning. The quote, "The Odyssey project helped me unwrap my gifts and rewrite the story of my life." We feel those gifts when you speak, Keena. And her sons also took part in Odyssey Junior and talk about when they're going to go to college. Now I'm going to turn it over to another one of our alumni, Corey Saffold, graduate of the Odyssey class of 2006.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, President Thompson and President Peterson, Regent Peterson, for allowing us this opportunity to present today. One of the main reasons I became a police officer was to extend the same amount of grace to other people, especially young high schoolers, that was given to me. whether it was taking what could have been an arrest or a citation and turning it into an opportunity to educate and inform, or whether it was protecting the vulnerable or helping someone that was victimized. I knew that the second chance I was offered had to be offered to other people, but I didn't quite know how to do that. I had an interest in law enforcement, but I didn't know if I'd be accepted into that field. Then I met a friend who told me about the UW-Odyssey project. I applied, I was accepted, and then I began to figure out my path. Because of the Odyssey project, I began to figure out my voice and activate my confidence. The UW-Odyssey project didn't just offer education, it inspired education. Being inspired, I wrote an editorial for the Wisconsin State Journal entitled "Education Must Trump Prison Time." It was responded to by then Chief Justice Shirley Abrahamson. I began to realize that at that time, it began to hit me that I had a voice. I had a very powerful voice, a very important voice. And not too long after the Odyssey project, I applied for the police department. I was hired. I started working in the high school, just like I always dreamed of as a police officer, and I began giving those second chances to those students that needed it, in the same way that it was given to me. I was empowered, and as a result, I was empowering others, which is really what the Wisconsin idea is all about, using education to empower people to see the change and to accomplish the change that they so desire. To use education as a master key that will open any door that one dares to explore. That is what the Odyssey project taught me. That is what the Odyssey project instilled in me. The UW-Odyssey project should be on more UW campuses across our system. There are many people like me all over our great state that are hungry, that are thirsty for education. There are many people like Keena Atkins, whose powerful poem you just heard, are all over our state, as far north as UW-Superior and far south as UW-Parkside, that are hungry, that if we just remove one barrier, would run to the opportunity for higher education. Hearing the successes, and you'll hear more, and the inspiring stories of the Odyssey project, please know that I am a product of that success. It is truly an honor and a privilege to be on the board of Regents and to work among you. I am fully aware that it would not be possible without the Odyssey project. I would not be here without the Odyssey project. So to every chancellor listening, to President Thompson, and to my colleagues on the board of Regents, please hear me when I tell you that the UW-Odyssey project is a life-changing program that people all over from Wisconsin should have the opportunity to benefit from, which as a result, the system will benefit from, and our great state would benefit from. I need everyone that's listening, everyone that hears me, to really, really get behind this idea, push this idea, believe in this idea, to fund this idea, and do whatever it takes to make this happen, to make this Odyssey happen for everyone across our state, so that more people in Wisconsin will be inspired toward education. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you so much, Corey. You're such an inspiration. And one thing that I would add is that the Odyssey project is multi-generational. So just last year, one of the 30 graduates in our program was Corey's daughter, who now wants to become a lawyer. And in our Odyssey Junior program was his 5-year-old grandson. And we see that with Odyssey, that sometimes someone who was in our childcare 8 years old will say that's the first time they ever thought about college, was when their parent or grandparent was in our program. I was so pleased to see, President Thompson, that you included in your list of UW system priorities the expansion of prison education. And I'm now going to ask Odyssey Beyond Bars Director Peter Moreno and Odyssey Co-Director Kevin Mullen to introduce themselves and share a few details about Odyssey Beyond Bars. Peter?
Thank you, Emily. My name is Peter Moreno, and I direct Odyssey Beyond Bars, which and I began in 2019 to offer credit bearing courses. I came after a decade as an attorney and clinical law professor, working specifically with incarcerated clients in prisons and prison systems in Wisconsin and Washington State. There is enormous need for greater educational opportunities in the prisons. Men and women who take part in educational programs while incarcerated are more likely to be successful in return to our communities. And their success carries with it a range of benefits we all enjoy. Lower costs for corrections in the courts, greater economic productivity, and more stable households and neighborhoods. UW has an important role in meeting this need. While many people in prison benefit from the vocational training provided by Wisconsin's wonderful technical colleges, roughly 40% of aspiring students in prison have both a desire and academic preparedness to enroll in a college degree program. UW can complement the good work of our technical colleges by establishing pathways to UW degrees for talented students who are motivated to redeem themselves and become models for others in the community. The problem of mass incarceration is so vast, we often talk about people in prison as a population. But this overlooks the reality that men and women in prison are individuals, and each needs an opportunity for personal transformation and empowerment. This is where Odyssey fits in. For nearly 2 decades, Odyssey's strength has been turning "no, I can't" into "yes, we can." And there is nowhere that attitude shift is more needed than in the prison system. I'm going to turn things over to Professor Kevin Mullen now to talk about how this shift occurs in his classroom at Oak Hill Correctional.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you to the Board of Regents for taking the time to hear about our program today. My name is Kevin Mullen, and I am the co-director of Odyssey. I specialize in teaching writing, whether to current students, alumni, or incarcerated learners through our Odyssey Beyond Bars program. Of all the teaching I've done over the last 20 years, I have to say that being the instructor for English 100, which is a UW composition course usually for first-year students at UW, at Oak Hill Correctional Facility last fall, in person and this fall remotely, has been the most rewarding and transformative classroom experience I've ever had, both for me and for the men in my class. At Oak Hill, we bring in guest professors, financial and academic advisors, writing tutors, and storytellers. And the men themselves feel to be both a part of UW-Madison and Odyssey. Just like the other parts of the Odyssey project, we publish a student newsletter called The Oracle, which I've got one right here, where features student writing. So students at Oak Hill just beam with pride when they see that their personal essays, argumentative research projects, and stories are in print. As we share that writing, we develop a supportive community that crosses boundaries of race, culture, religion, politics, and age. Let me just give you a few examples of the men in my class so that they seem as real to you as they do to me. Last year, I had a student named Michael, who is a Native American man from northern Wisconsin, who said that he was illiterate when he first came to prison at the age of 16, but soon began to pursue his education so that he could become a better role model for his son. He wrote, quote, "My educational journey started because I wanted to give more to my son. I wanted him to have a better life than I did, but it became so much more. It became a journey of discovery, of self-fulfillment, and an opportunity to learn my dreams and create goals for myself. My education started out as a desire to give to somebody else and turned out to be a gift to myself." At our graduation ceremony last fall at Oak Hill, Leonard, an African-American student from Milwaukee, came up to me on the verge of tears and said, "I feel like you've given us all appetizers with this class, and now we're hungry, feel hungry for more. So what's next?" And he wasn't alone in feeling that way. 100% of our students from last year said that the class made them more excited to take college classes and to pursue degrees. And we are thrilled that next semester, we've been approved to offer another credit-bearing UW-Madison course at Oak Hill, Multicultural American Literature. Peter and I are so grateful to the Department of Corrections and to other campuses and programs joining us in forming a coalition to bring life-changing higher education into Wisconsin prisons. I have seen firsthand how much grappling with the humanities and working on their own writing has changed my students' perception of themselves and others and has led to personal growth. As Greg, another student, said at the end of class, "I started this course with a blank page, and along the way, to fill up with my thoughts, feelings, and ideas. I didn't know what to expect, and now at the close of this course, I feel a lot lighter because it helped me face myself and learn some hard truths about me. It has made me shed tears a time or two, and I'm stronger for it." Thank you for your time, and now back to Emily.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Peter. I think Odyssey Beyond Bars is succeeding because of Kevin's devoted teaching and Peter's tireless advocacy for prison education. The arts and humanities that are at the core of Odyssey might seem impractical, but they do change lives. After studying poetry and art with us, Tracy created her own representation of herself, showing herself trapped inside a revolving door. Just when I start to get out, my friends still on drugs drag me back in. I never get out of that revolving door. I'm just like the prisoners in Plato's allegory of the cave, shackled and unable to escape. Tracy told me that it wasn't until Odyssey, when she created that image of the revolving door, that she was finally able to break free of her drug addiction. Only by picturing her life metaphorically could she change it. So despite the pandemic, we are continuing all 4 parts of our program this semester. It has been heartbreaking to only meet online and frustrating to address the technology gap our low-income students face. But I also feel proud of all our team has been able to do under terrible circumstances. And our students are rising to the occasion. I'd be happy, if time permits, to answer questions you might have about how we have responded to COVID. I am so thankful for our entire Odyssey team of instructors, support personnel, staff, and volunteers dedicated to this program and its survival. Before opening it up to you for questions, I want to close by thanking the UW for making this program possible. I feel Odyssey epitomizes the Wisconsin idea in action. And I'm so glad that we have a UW system-wide commitment to non-traditional students and to social justice. Odyssey receives diverse funding from UW-Madison, the Division of Continuing Studies, the College of Letters and Science, and over 750 external supporters, including foundations, businesses such as American Family Insurance, which donated laptops to all our students this year, and individual donors like Pleasant Rowland and my dad, who turned his 90th birthday into a giant benefit for Odyssey. I view our funding as like a beautiful patchwork quilt with squares from hundreds of donors and partners stitched together to keep us warm. So thanks again for your invitation to speak. And now I'd love to take your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you to all of our panelists. I know we'll have several questions to get to. President Thompson, I think you wanted to say a few words.
Thank you. First off, Emily, thank you. And Corey and Keena, thank you. You brought tears to my eyes listening to all of you. It was very emotional and very powerful. All I wanted to say is that you mentioned, Emily, my desire to put prison front and center in the budget for the university. I've had this dream for a long time to turn one of our prisons into a college. And I've talked to Peter Marino about it. We're out raising money on the private sector to do so. And we're also going to be asking the legislature and the governor to support it as well. It seems strange to me that we, in all the years that I've been involved in public service, that we have right now approximately 28,000 individuals locked up and nowhere to go except to stare at the prison walls day in and day out. And as Peter said, there's 40% that could go to college. I believe it's 45%. We're spending about $35,000 a year to incarcerate them. It's just a waste of money, a waste of time, and a waste of opportunities for young men and women. And I want to do everything I possibly can as president or outside of being president to turn one of our prisons into a college and to be able to recruit as many young men and women to be able to go to college while they're in the walls of the prison and be able to have businesses sponsor them. So when they get out, they got a job to go to. And we can do it in Wisconsin. We can be the first in the country to do it. And the Odyssey program is very important to that. And I really thank you, Emily, for what you've done, what you've started, your goals, your aspirations, and what you've done for people in the state of Wisconsin. You're truly a wonderful leader. I'm very happy I got a chance to meet you, even though it's not in person, but hope to meet you in person as soon as we get by this COVID stuff and get on with it. And I really want to work with you, and I know the university does, and do everything we possibly can to grow Odyssey and to reform prisons in Wisconsin and be an example for the country. So thank you, Emily.
Thank you, President Thompson. Let me just take a point of privilege to say, you know, the Odyssey project clearly has tremendous impacts throughout the campus and the community, But you also have a tremendous advocate in Regent Corey Saffold, who from the onset has brought, I think, continued visibility to the importance of this program, the value in expanding it, thinking about expanding it, and how we go about doing that. And, we heard today powerful voices from both Corey and Keena, and we hear you. These are incredibly impactful stories. They always start out of despair and they turn into such hope. And that's precisely the kind of thing where I think this board can make a difference. So again, I want to just commend you for your partnership with us, with the campuses, and we'll see how we can expand and grow that. I'll kick off the questions. This should be an easy one, Keena. You're a business owner. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, what a transition and transformation you've had, but I'm really interested to hear what you're doing now.
Yeah, so ironically, as Emily told you all, when I applied for the Odyssey project, I was homeless. And so that was in 2010. And then in 2018, I purchased a multifamily property. So I actually provide housing now as a landlord. And then additionally, I teach yoga and dance wellness to yoga, dance, mindfulness to people of all ages across Dane County and beyond, actually across the country. And now because of the pandemic. So I do get to provide a wellness practice for people anywhere in the country. And then outside of that, I also have a hair salon where I do hair. So I get to teach mindfulness yoga to children as young as 1 year old, or almost one in some cases, all the way up to however old people want to be doing some yoga, dance, mindfulness, meditation, or even just learning the philosophies and then use them and apply them in their everyday lives to help them have a more well life.
Yeah, that's terrific. Thank you. Questions of the Regents? Regent Greeby.
Thank you. This was strikingly powerful as a presentation and clearly as a program. So thank you for everybody who spoke today. I think this is a question for Professor Auerbach, but I'd be interested in responses from any of the presenters. In the materials, there's reference to the program as being to some degree family focused or whole family focused. And that seemed to be a thread that was woven through a number of what you all shared with us today. Professor Auerbach, I guess I'd start with you and just ask if you could talk a little more about that aspect of this program, and I'm assuming why you think that it has such a positive driving impact on outcomes.
Sure, and thanks for that excellent question. I think it's crucial if you're trying to address poverty to take a whole family approach. We know that people are trapped in generational poverty. And so if while the adults are studying with us, we're also working with children on their vocabulary, on arts, on self-expression, and on thinking of themselves as future college students, then we really can make a difference with the whole family. So if this pandemic had not hit when it did, we were about to take occupancy of more space in South Madison, where MATC had recently vacated in South Madison, and turn that into what we've been calling the Odyssey Project Family Learning Center. We've been doing that in the evenings in our other space, but we were going to expand that so that a mom with 3 children could come in, work on her homework, or get financial aid counseling, while graduate students from UW and volunteers could be reading to and working with those children of all ages. Sometimes people will ask, why did you admit someone in your program who's 71 years old? That's our oldest graduate so far. She went on, by the way, to make the dean's list. But we had her granddaughter graduate from our class just a few years later. So I think sometimes inspiring one member of a family sends ripples throughout that whole extended family. Does that answer your question?
Very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Regent Bogos.
Thank you so much to everyone. That was very powerful. Thank you, Professor Auerbach. I'm just curious. I come from a family of a lot of teachers, and I hear often that in the schools there's
multi-generational issues with poverty, that there's no optimism, there's no hope that college is for other people. So I'm just wondering, kind of working backwards, if you've made any inroads, or the Odyssey Project or offshoots of the Odyssey Project are able to get into the schools. And I think by the time a kid is, in middle school and has lost hope that college is for everybody else but not them, if there's any inroads that you've made in Dane County or elsewhere in the state.
We do have some of our graduates now who are working in the schools as special education aides or are on the path to becoming teachers. We've had a couple of our graduates who've gone in and acted out scenes with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and then try to talk to the kids at Verona or other schools. With Corey being in the Verona school districts, we are gradually getting, I think, more of our graduates into the program. I'd like to see more connection. We do have Odyssey Junior teens who go back to their teachers and classrooms and talk about the experience. And I probably should have mentioned too that just one figure is that of our 500 graduates of the UW Odyssey Project, 3/4 of them have gone on to take more college. And, so we are seeing a lot of success in that way.
Thank you.
Questions of other regents? Regents on the video conference. Okay, any final questions from the audience? Regent Walsh and then Regent Woodmansee.
I have a specific question about the Odyssey Beyond Bars project. As you've been working through that project, what are the greatest barriers you have to making that a success?
Well, I'll talk about a little bit about the logistical constraints that we face sometimes in the prisons. And I want to reiterate Kevin's compliment to the Department of Corrections. They have been tremendously accommodative of our program and have cooperated whenever they can to make it a success and adapt to COVID. So for that, we're thankful. However, we still have too many people in prison and an excess capacity, I should say, a lack of capacity for movement of folks within the prison system. So as we're thinking about continuing with our programming, adding classes, and potentially expanding, one of the issues we have is we have folks in prison from around the state who are interested in participating, given the overcrowding we have in the prison system, to move folks around. There are also concerns about security generally in the prisons. That has to be the primary concern of any prison system, is maintaining a safe environment. And it's sometimes difficult, even within the prison, to create the time in the day that will allow interested students to participate. There are a lot of other competing programs that education is put on the balance with, that students have to participate in first. And moving students within the prison to their classrooms and finding time in the day is a security challenge within each prison as well. So I would say the overcrowding issue is one. The security issues within the prisons is another thing. And then lastly, one issue that's really come to light recently, especially with the constraints imposed by COVID, are the technology constraints. So we're very fortunate here in Wisconsin to have a progressive Department of Corrections that's doing what they can to expand limited internet access for the purposes of education. But we're still working through a lot of those issues. There are security constraints there as well. We can't think about online education and the capacity for expanding online education generally. A student in prison can't just sit down at a computer and and log on to Canvas and search for resources through Google. It's quite limited. So we have to work out ways to construct those technology avenues to allow for greater educational access. Making good strides in those areas. I'm proud to say that next semester we're going to be complementing the remote access that we currently have in the prisons to teach courses, which is a Zoom-based live synchronous video feed that we have. We're going to be complementing that with a learning management system, sort of like Canvas, that was built specifically for service in the prison. So that's been approved by DOC. So that's going to allow greater communication between the instructors and the students and alleviate that administrative burden on the Department of Corrections, which we're anxious to do.
I really want to tell you, I admire what you're doing. I think it's a crucial program. And actually, I think in some sense, you may be a laboratory for us as we move forward with the initiative that President Thompson has in mind for us. Could be very transformative to our correction system. So thank you for your work.
Regent Woodmansee.
I first want to thank everyone for this presentation. It was absolutely phenomenal, and I want to thank you all for the tremendous work that you do. I also want to give a quick shout out to Corey, because before he joined the board, I didn't even know this program existed. And for it to be highlighted on this level, I think is really, really crucial to hopefully getting it more funding and getting the program to grow. I know, Corey, you had mentioned it a bit in your speech, but I'm curious, Kina, how you found out about the Odyssey project, and then Professor Auerbach, if you could expand on how the average student finds out about the Odyssey project and what kind of marketing strategies you employ.
How I found out about the Odyssey project was through the barber who was letting me sleep in his barbershop after hours. I was extremely depressed, as you can imagine, a person who's homeless with a 4-year-old. And so one day he just said to me, you should apply. He was an alumni of the Odyssey project. And so he was like, you should apply for the Odyssey project. He had done tremendous work through the community. And so he told me you should apply. And I was like, I don't think that it's, why would anybody want to accept me, and this and that and the other. He was like, well, can you just please do me a favor and apply? And so I filled out the application and applied. That was how I found out. I didn't know anything about the Odyssey or that my life was going to be forever changed just by taking that step in and through my depression to apply for the program.
Yeah, I would just add to that when I was told about the Clementi course in the humanities, they mentioned that we'd be lucky if we started with 30 students and ended up with 15, that the dropout rate was 50%. But we've been able to graduate about 95% of the students with us. Sometimes all 30 receive credits. And we've also never had trouble attracting students because our partner from the beginning has been the Madison Public Library. And students often who come into the library looking for resources and information will see a flyer that says, start your journey to college for free. And other partners like Head Start and places in tell what they can see is intelligent, gifted adults trying to change their lives. They'll tell them about our program. So we have had to turn people away every year. We get about 80, 90, 100 applicants for those 30 spots. I've been giving vouchers to start at Madison College, trying to steer people to other paths or having them reapply. But like Corey mentioned in his remarks, there is a hunger in the community, absolute hunger in the state for access to higher education. And I think word of mouth is part of it. The barber, by the way, that Kina mentioned, he turned his barbershop into a kind of cultural hub with pictures of Martin Luther King and Frederick Douglass. And he told me that, and this goes back to Regent Bogo's comment about children, Derek told me that as he cut the hair of the boys at his barbershop, he would talk to them about staying in school. He would be trying to inspire them, and that's why he got a Community Unsung Hero Award. So even though Derek didn't go on in college and won't be in that 3/4 statistic, he has inspired lots of children in his barbershop chairs, and he's talked to other people like Kina and steered them. So I think word of mouth has been one of our big ways of spreading. And we've had lots of media coverage as well, which helps.
Regent Stanford Taylor, do you have a question?
I just wanted to commend you. Besides Regent Saffold, I know of a number of graduates within my church and other community events and activities that I participate in who have been participants in the program and just speak volumes to the success of that. My question around this, and you touched on it just a moment ago, was about collaborations. You mentioned Head Start, public libraries and such. And I know we've had people come to talk about reading in the prisons, especially when we go back to talking about the prisons and if there are connections to those, the program that you're doing, which is serving to open the world of education to them, and then helping them to be able to reach out to their kids if they are parents and spread that joy and thirst and hunger for education. And I'm also thinking about ways that the Department of Public Instruction can also connect to the work that you all are doing.
Great. Well, the DPI actually helps to fund some of our teenagers that are in the Odyssey Junior program. So we have turned Odyssey Junior into one of UW's pre-college programs, and I'm excited about that. And I really like the idea that you could be sort of a badger for life, that you could be one and sort of in a pre-college program, maybe working with graduate students who are getting your vocabulary up there and reading to you, and that you can be in your 80s and still be a lifelong learner. And so we have done a living history panel, bringing in some of the elders. I like the idea of lifelong learning. I just think that getting the whole trajectory of a family involved is so important. And I think also to find families where no one has gone to college. I had one student a few years ago who said that college seemed like a chess game, that he could tell it looked like a good game and other people were playing it, but no one had told him the rules, so he didn't know what the bishop and the rook did. And if somebody could just explain this college game, maybe he could play. And that metaphor has stayed with me. That was like 10 years ago. And I think finding ways to reach more families where no one has gone to college, but they really need that opportunity, like it was for my mother.
Thank you. Any final questions from Regents? Seeing none, I would just simply close by saying, as we heard from one of the presenters, this is a program that's not just a schooling program, it's a community, and it's clear to us and evident that that's exactly the case. Grateful to Peter for helping us with our prison initiative, grateful for Emily for co-directing, and Kevin, and to both of our presenters, Keena and Corey. Thank you so much for being here today. Let's give our panelists a round of applause. All right, we have a little bit of business to continue to contend with. We'll move to item 12, where we'll return to our ongoing rulemaking progress. In August, the board approved emergency rules for chapters UWS 4, 7, 11, and 17 of the Wisconsin Administrative Code in order to bring the UW system into compliance with new federal Title IX regulations that went into effect on August 14th. That approval permitted our legal and compliance teams to continue drafting permanent rule language. The UW staff is now seeking the board's approval to hold a required public hearing on the proposed permanent rules. To explain this next step, I'll call on Sarah Haribo, who is the UW System's Title IX and Clery Act Administrator. Sarah, I believe you're with us. Good morning.
Good morning, Regent President Peterson and members of the Board of Regents. By way of background, Chief Compliance Officer for UW System, Katie Gutowski, presented to the board on July 9th, July 20th, and August 5th to address the new Title IX regulations released by the Department of Education in May of 2020 and to discuss our proposed plan for compliance. On July 20th, the board granted UW System staff the authority to begin drafting rules necessary to come into compliance with the federal regulations. On August 5th, the board approved the emergency rules and interim Regent policy document 14-2 to bring us into compliance by the August 14th effective date. Since that time, our drafting team has been working on the permanent rules to circulate for public comment and make revisions. The drafts that were submitted with your materials for today's meeting were circulated widely through the internal UW System stakeholder groups from October 12th to October 21st. The core drafting team consists of myself, Tom Stafford, Office of General Counsel, UW System, Jolie Erden, General Counsel, UWM, Kim Anderson, Title IX Coordinator, UW-M, Rachel Jarris, General Counsel, UW-Madison, and Lauren Hasselbacher, Title IX Coordinator, UW-Madison. We have reviewed and made adjustments based on comments and feedback we received and our own review. The members of this core drafting team are present at this meeting to assist and answer any questions you may have. Today, we are seeking the board's consideration and approval of the public hearing notice of the proposed permanent rule drafts and the economic impact analysis statement. The economic impact analysis went through a similar process of system-wide distribution and public comment during the month of October. We determined that there would likely be no economic impact to business sectors outside of the UW system. The UW system will incur extra costs through staffing, additional hearing officers and advisors, as well as fulfilling resource and training requirements. If the board approves the hearing notice today, we will move forward with the public comment period that will run from today until November 30th, with a virtual public hearing to be held on November 30th. Based on comments received and further review, the drafting team will make appropriate revisions and approval. This is the permanent rules. In terms of the content of the draft permanent rules that will be circulated throughout the month, we have not made significant substantive changes from the emergency rules that were approved by this board in August. The most notable change was reorganization for ease of reading and to provide clarity as to what procedures allow for Title IX related cases and for non-Title IX related cases. We've sexual misconduct disciplinary procedure for students at UWS Chapter 17 for clarity. The definition of sexual harassment was slightly changed in UWS Chapters 4, 11, and 17 in relation to non-Title IX misconduct to use the term individuals rather than require the sexual harassment be directed towards faculty, staff, and students. This change is in line with Title VII, the law that covers discrimination in the employment context. Title IX and I have a couple of comments. In UWS 17, procedures for student non-academic discipline in non-sexual misconduct cases and the procedures for student in sexual misconduct cases are now separated into two subchapters. The subchapter for non-academic sexual misconduct cases is further separated into non-Title IX and Title IX procedures. The processes are similar in that both require a live hearing with cross-examination in all cases except where informal resolution is allowable and agreed upon by both parties. For faculty and staff in UWS Chapters 4 and 11, those processes are separated into subchapters that address non-Title IX procedures and then Title IX procedures. Noted that both procedures outline hearing requirements, including cross-examination and the ability of parties to cross-examine each other directly. Provisions related to the appointment of advisors, cross-examination, and live hearings were already present in our employee and faculty procedures in some capacity and only needed relatively minor modification. In terms of the live hearing requirement, Title IX procedures involve an automatic right to live hearing, either the complainant or respondent, whereas our non-Title IX procedures allow for a hearing when requested by the employee or faculty member respondent, which was not a change from the original language in the code. Socialization plan, I think it's important to note what we've been doing to share these rules. The socialization plan for this public comment period will mirror the process we use for the emergency rules. We will circulate language and request comment from stakeholders across the system, including but not limited to the President's Cabinet, chancellors, provosts, senior student affairs officers, chief business officers, human resources directors, affirmative action, equal employment opportunity officers, athletic directors, student conduct officers, Title IX coordinators, prevention coordinators, Clery officers, and governance groups. Understanding the impact that these rules will have on the student population, I have worked with Regent Woodmansee and others across UW system to ensure that students are well informed and provided ample opportunity for input. I was able to present at a system-wide meeting of student government leaders and senators and provide them with informational material to explain the new regulations. I am also hoping to meet with student senate groups at a number of individual institutions, and I am working with campus employees who interact with students to ensure that they are making every effort to increase student awareness and participation in the rulemaking process. We received one comment during our September public hearing related to improving student awareness. I have taken that seriously, and I am working to ensure robust communication with students throughout the permanent rulemaking process. Finally, we are working closely with UW system communications teams to make the best use of social media and other channels to spread awareness about the rules and the public comment periods. We will be receiving comments directly through email and again through a comment posted on our website. One comment on the pending lawsuit and potential change in administration. One issue that we've been discussing internally is what we would do in the case of a change in the federal regulations due to the ongoing litigation or a change in federal administration. In conversations with the State Department of Justice, it appears that any action that could be taken at the federal level, absent a ruling in court, would likely take at least a year. Preliminary inquiry has shown that changes to the new regulations would require going through the federal rulemaking process or congressional action, both of which would take significant time. Even if a new federal administration took office and announced plans to repeal or not enforce these rules, failure to proceed with efforts to come into compliance on our end could result in significant legal liability if taken prematurely, given that Title IX provides a private right of action to individual parties to sue in federal court. Quinn Williams and I are meeting with individuals at the Department of Justice to discuss possible legal strategies based on different scenarios. This is an issue that is in the forefront of our thoughts as we continue to move through this process. This concludes my presentation, and I will turn it back over to Regent President Peterson. As I mentioned earlier, the core drafting team is here to also answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Sarah, and thanks for the core team for being here. Thanks for anticipating some of our questions, which I thought was very informative. Regents, may I have a motion to approve Resolution 12? So moved. Regent Grebe, may I have a second? Regent Woodmansee? Discussion of members of the board related to these items. Regent Bogos.
Thank you, President Regent Peterson, and thank you, Sarah, for your presentation. I really appreciate all your hard work. In the beginning, you stated, and we know that there's going to be extra cost for the implementation of the new rules. And you mentioned extra staff. I'm just curious what we're looking at as far as, I know every office is different. If you can just make a general overlay of what that means. And then I'm going to ask a second question. Just as far as interpreting advisors, I don't know if you're counting that in the extra cost to Title IX offices throughout the system, where that interpretation of advisors, if you're mostly counting on outside attorneys and contracts, and where that training is coming from. So I'm sorry, that's many questions.
So there is potential that depends if we anticipate that those offices may change. Requirements of the new regulations and a particular campus is going to change at this time, but it seemed important to include that as a potential in the economic impact analysis statement. As far as advisors and hearing officers, as you may currently know, we do have a memorandum of understanding with the Hearing and Appeals to assist at least this initial year. to provide hearing officers for campuses who are in need. In addition, we have solicited a variety of advisors from the Wisconsin Bar Pool, who, as part of being an advisor for our cases, have to go through an initial orientation and then an approximate 1 hour training covering a variety of topics. That training was developed by myself. Does that answer all your questions, Regent Bogus?
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Sarah. Other questions of members of the board? Any on the video? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of moving forward with Resolution 12 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Sarah and team, thanks for being here today, keeping us moving along this journey. We appreciate it very much.
It's a journey.
Oh, yeah.
So before we move on to what are generally thought of as some of the most fondly elements of our meetings, I will say that, I think you saw today a meeting that was much more content-rich and controversy-free. I've said that before. That's my preference. I believe it's the preference of the board, and I'd like to see us do more of that. I think we learn a lot more when we have these kinds of meetings and can have this kind of discussion and discourse. Moving on, it's now time for the board to recognize Regent Emeritus Torrey Tiedeman, who is joining us here today, whose term on the board ended in May after he graduated successfully, I might add, from UW-Madison. Today, we're very pleased to have him here in Van Hise, so welcome back, Torrey. At this time, I'm going to call on Regent Ed Manideeds to present the board's resolution of appreciation for Torrey's service to the UW system. Regent Manideeds.
Thank you, Regent President Peterson. To all the people in the system that work so hard, and to my fellow regents, I'd like to tell you that it's my great honor to read Torrey's resolution. When I first met Torrey, and is what is becoming a more frequent theme for me, I thought to myself how young he looks, and that he was probably just starting out. And then I said to myself, you're starting to sound like a disgruntled boomer, as my daughter accuses me of being something. So I thought, well, maybe I better take a different look. And I did. I started listening to Torrey, and I realized that he was very bright, he's articulate, he's thoughtful, and he's very experienced. He's clearly wise and experienced beyond his years. And once again, I discovered that looks can be deceiving. With each succeeding meeting that I was with Torrey in regarding Regent business, I saw the depth of his knowledge and his level of preparation, and I truly admired that. Then the thing that really grabbed me was when he made his November 2019 presentation at our Regent meeting regarding the Missing in Action Recovery and Identification Project. He presented that with so much passion. As you know, Torrey is a Marine, and that was a very meaningful experience for him. But when I heard him presenting what had been taking place in Europe and who he was with and what they were doing and the end result of all of that, I was inspired, because it's very rare that you meet someone that is passionate, has goals, and then actually follows through with them. And that's what Torrey does. He follows through. Torrey and I also worked together on the search for the new system president. I can tell you that he was always prepared. He read all the material that was sent to us by the people conducting the search. He was always able to ask questions of the candidates that were pertinent and helpful to us in arriving at our decisions. Now, I know that Torrey, graduated just a short while ago. I also know that at one time he expressed an interest in getting into the legal field. I really hope that he follows through with that goal, because believe me, the legal profession needs people like Torrey. We need people that will work for their clients and do what's in their best interest, not just be in it for the money. I think that would be exactly what he would do, because that's the kind of person he is. Torrey, I would like to thank you for your service to our country. I'd like to thank you for your service to the Board of Regents in the state of Wisconsin. I'd like to thank you for your commitment and service in finding the remains of our heroes overseas and returning them to their families. Mostly, I'd like to thank you for being a friend. You are a man everyone at the system and on the Board of Regents is proud of. Now I'm going to read the resolution. Whereas Torrey Tiedeman has served as a dedicated student representative on the University of Wisconsin System Board of Regents from November 2018 to May 2020. And whereas Torrey has offered valuable perspective as a member of both the Business and Finance Committee and the Research, Economic Development, and Innovation Committee. And whereas Torrey has served on the Diversity Awards Committee, working to publicly honor and reward the commitment of outstanding UW educators who support student success. And whereas Torrey served as a member of the UW System Presidential Search Committee. And whereas Torrey graduated in May with a Bachelor of Science degrees in economics, political science, and legal studies, as well as a certificate in archaeology from UW-Madison, where he was active in the university's chapter of Student Veterans of America. And prior to his graduate studies, Torrey served as an infantryman in the United States Marine Corps until his honorable discharge with the rank of sergeant. And whereas Torrey was the project communications manager for the University of Wisconsin Missing in Action Recovery and Identification Project, which was featured in the November 2019 UW System Board of Regents meeting. Now it therefore be resolved that the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System commends Torrey Tiedeman for his excellent service on behalf of the University of Wisconsin System and the citizens of Wisconsin, and wishes him every success in the future. Congratulations, Torrey.
Right apart, let's get a picture of that. Ed, smile, you're on camera. Oh. Actually, yeah.
I'd like to begin this by just thank you, Ed, for the kind remarks. If I could shake your hand, I'm also turning around here so I can look at you on screen, but if I could shake your hand, actually, if I can shake everyone in this room's hand or give you a hug, absolutely would, and I wish that were the case. And for those of you that aren't in the room, okay, so that was a little unscripted, but so now to my remarks. Greetings, President Thompson, Regent President Peterson, Regent Vice President Greavy, members of the board, chancellors, fellow colleagues, and friends all, and new regents since my time has ended. So I'll make my remarks relatively brief, as I know you all have immensely important business to attend to, including a resolution of appreciation for one of my other former colleagues. Hard to believe it was just under 2 years ago that I was being onboarded to serve on the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System. Sometimes it seems like yesterday, other times it seems like as much as a decade ago. Of course, things are very different now than they were in December of 2018. There was absolutely never a dull moment from the time I was called by Jess Lathrop a few days after I was notified by the former governor's office that the appointment was moving forward to schedule an initial meeting prior to my first board meeting at UW-La Crosse through the end of my formal service in late spring and early summer. I arrived in the immediate post-merger era. My time on the board was primarily defined by discourse of campus freedom of speech expression, the UW System Executive Administrative Searches, the high-profile UW System Executive Administrative Searches, and revisitation of campus, revisitation of examination of the tuition freeze. As you're all aware, it was punctuated by the pandemic. It was an honor to serve my fellow students in the state of Wisconsin to the very best of my ability in this capacity. The word promising does not do justice to convey how optimistic and hopeful I have become in witnessing the cross-sectionality of motivation and ideas that I observe through my fellow students, some of whom are inventors of medical devices or even developers of business models and other products, growing their very own businesses. I encourage the system, or as a standalone remark, I also encourage the system to keep up the forward progress in the realm of student mental health. Prior to expressing my gratitude to many deserving individuals, I would like to conclude my remarks on a note of positivity, or express positivity. Wisconsin is the land of growth. We know that Wisconsin grows rich dairy and agricultural resources, as well as outstanding citizens, and now saliently, solutions to modern problems, of which the UW system plays an integral role. We need only to look at the programs, regardless of their lifetimes, such as the Freshwater Collaborative, the Dairy Innovation Hub, and the presentation that I just heard when I walked in, among many others, to see if this is evident. I'm going to go off my remarks a little bit here. In road tripping across the state to visit each of the campuses, as many of the campuses as I could, it was encouraging to catch a glimpse, because not only what was going on presently at each campus, but also what I could look forward to in the future of our state. Whatever happens over the next several months, or even as far as into 2022 and beyond, I encourage the state to look to the students, staff, and faculty of UW system institutions to provide them with solutions to the unprecedented challenges that we face. Our country can take note of what we do here and follow our lead. I would like to thank my former colleagues in UW system administration, Heather, Mark, Jack, Ben Passmore, Dr. Bauer, Regent President Emeritus Bailing, and Gary Bennett, chancellors and their staff who generously gave me their time, ASM Chair Emeritus Downer, who set the bar for what I should expect in my level of committal and responsibility the day of my appointment, Vice Chancellor Reeser for facilitating inputs for me to listen on campus, UW system student reps for graciously hosting me and giving me some time on the floor at their meetings, UW system IT, who kept me equipped, Joe Rasmussen, who planted the seed in my head that I should maybe apply for this position, and who saw an opportunity for me to be of service to student veterans, military-connected students, non-traditional students, and all UW system students. Regent Emeritus Harzy, who patiently answered my many questions prior to and during the application interview process. Regent Emeritus Ring, who showed me the ropes once I got here. I'm glad our paths crossed. Regent Woodmansee, who is the epitome of a team player, and whose acumen and many gifts and skills are a boon to all of our students across the state. I'm glad to have served at the same time as you. Regent Atwell, for your sense of humor. Regent Manydeeds, for your grounding presence, your perspective, and your true friendship as well. Jim Henderson, who instilled confidence in me in a more intimate and decisive setting in my first committee appointment. Margot Lassard, who always kept me on track. Karen Schmidt, Vice President Morville Sosa, and Chris Nagler, who paid great time and attention to an effort involving non-traditional students that was very important to me as well as my constituency. Chancellor Watson, who carved out a significant amount of time as a new chancellor to host me and answer my many questions at UW-Whitewater. Chancellor Blank, who was always welcoming and never ever sugarcoated anything. Quinn Williams, who always made time for me and my many questions as well. Regent President Peterson and Regent Vice President Greavy, who believed in me and asked me to further my service on the board. Regent Emeritus Cross, President Emeritus Cross, whose strong leadership was a steady guide over some very trying times. You had one of the toughest jobs in the system. Megan and Sandy, whose tireless efforts kept me informed at all times. And a very special thanks to Jess. I could not have served on the board in any capacity resembling normalcy without your seemingly infinite patience and all of the effort that you put toward me. Thank you, Jess. So with that, it's November, being the month of the Marine Corps birthday. I'll leave you all with a Semper Fi, but also I'm grateful for all of you, and I'm forever yours in service. Thank you all.
Thank you, Regent Emeritus Torrey Tiedeman. Congratulations again. Today, we're also pleased to welcome back Regent Emeritus Jan Mueller, whose service on the board ended earlier this year. For some of our newer board members, we'll know that Jan was the conscience of the Board of Regents, a very well-spoken and well-reasoned woman and a great friend. At this time, I'll turn it over to Regent Vice President Michael Grebe to present the board's resolution of appreciation for Jan's service to the system.
Great. Thank you, Regent President Peterson. Frequently, when people look for leadership within a governing body, they look to the people who chair the board, hold the gavel, or sit at the head of the table. And frequently, that's where leadership is found. But leadership can also be found in other seats around the table. And some of the most telling attributes of leadership are measured less in formal titles and more in the subtle ways people influence their colleagues and the deference their colleagues show them. By those measures, there's no question that Jan Mueller was a vital leader within the Board of Regents during her tenure. For understandable reasons, the external perception of how the members of this body work together is frequently at odds with how we actually work together. Jan exhibited real leadership through her deeply thoughtful and diligent approach to her work, and by being the source of knowledge, wisdom, experience, and judgment on the financial matters that are so important to this board and to this system. Jan brought a perfect blend of experience and knowledge to her service as a regent. With a degree from Central Michigan University, Jan was the first person in her family to graduate from college. Well before she joined the Board of Regents, she accumulated a long tenure of dedicated service to the state of Wisconsin. For more than 3 decades, she served taxpayers in various roles at the Legislative Audit Bureau and the Legislative Fiscal Bureau. Jan was appointed state auditor in 1998 and served in that position for more than a decade. When she joined the Board of Regents in 2013, she brought with her an indispensable ability to understand and explain the intricacies of state finance, budget, and audit matters. The need for that expertise, especially at that time, really can't be overstated. While many of the people here or present may remember the atmosphere that existed at the time of Jan's appointment, some may not, and it's worth revisiting for context. In early 2013, the headlines about our system across the state referred to allegations of surpluses, hidden reserves, excess cash, and slush funds. Setting aside the merits of any of the criticisms that were being made at that time, the situation and the atmosphere was serious, with serious ramifications for the UW system and for the Board of Regents. Fairly or not, the system and the board had lost the confidence of many constituents. And the criticism came not just from detractors, but from supporters as well. That was the environment that Jan Mueller stepped into when she joined the board. Her presence provided reassurance to many observers, and her performance made a real difference to the system and to her colleagues. Within a matter of months of her appointment, another audit crisis erupted involving unintended overpayments to pension and health plans. Jan's expertise was, of course, essential in helping decipher the details behind that issue, but importantly, she also brought a note of positivity and even optimism to the process, expressing not just disappointment at the problem, but also expressing encouragement that the system, in part because of Jan's urging, was moving forward with a plan to improve. As the board began exercising increased oversight in connection with finance and audit matters, Jan's approach proved to be a model for the board to follow. Be diligent, learn the facts, ask tough questions, and where there's a shortcoming, help identify a solution and move toward a better process and a better outcome. Very few of us were members of the board at the time Jan became a regent, but again, it's appropriate to recall today the tension that existed within the system at that time. With the criticism coming at the system, again, whether you think it was warranted or not, there was a possibility that the atmosphere within this board would become typified by finger-pointing, accusatory reactions, blame placing, and a lack of focus on finding ways to solve the problems facing the system. Jan's approach, exemplified by her reaction to the pension and health plan problems, helped keep the board from moving in that direction and led the board to be a positive, collaborative influence on reform and progress. Let me make 2 more brief observations about Jan's service. First, While much of what the Board of Regents gets publicity for include high-profile issues that capture media attention, a substantial amount of the important work that we do is far more mundane and far less publicized. I should correct a part of that statement. It only appears mundane. In fact, it is not. While that lower profile work may gain fewer headlines, it constitutes an essential part of our responsibility on this board. We've joked in the past that audit committee meetings can always be held in the smallest available room because the non-committee attendance is usually quite sparse. But as Jan liked to remind us, that supposedly mundane subject matter can be exciting. It is unquestionably important, and so was Jan's service. A hallmark of Jan's service to the board, the system, and the state for more than 40 years has been diligent attention to those matters, always accompanied by a focus on how to improve. Please permit me a moment for a personal observation as one of the many lawyers on this board who has served on the audit committee. Echoing many liberal arts major / law students across the country, there were many audit committee instances where I found myself thinking, I was told there would be no math. Thankfully, Jan Mueller did the math for us. Thinking of those occasionally less obvious moments of leadership that I mentioned a moment ago, influence and deference, it is hard not to picture audit committee meetings where Jan would patiently wait until the right moment to ask a question or make an observation that demonstrated a total understanding of challenging issues, that focused on exactly the right question, and that led the committee and the system in exactly the right direction. Recall the dynamic around that table. Jan's colleagues looking at her and to her for direction. When Jan was satisfied, we were satisfied. When she wasn't, we knew we had more work to do. Jan led, and we followed. Finally, I couldn't speak about Jan without mentioning something else we all know. Jan is one of the warmest, kindest, most thoughtful people any of us have ever worked with, period. Her compassion greets you like a warm hug whenever she sees you. Maybe that's because she greets you with a literal warm hug whenever she sees you. On a personal note, I was a grateful recipient of Jan's thoughtfulness in a very real way shortly after I joined this board at a time when it was particularly appreciated. And that thoughtfulness continued. Remarkably, Jan's outward-focused compassion came at times when many others would have understandably been focused inward on themselves. But not Jan. She epitomized selfless collegiality. Jan, I know I speak on behalf of all of your colleagues, past and present, in thanking you for your service, your diligence, your leadership, and most of all, your friendship. Thank you and congratulations. Now we'll read our resolution. Whereas Janice Mueller dedicated 7 years of exemplary service as a regent of the University of Wisconsin system from June 2013 to May 2020. And whereas Jan has been a steadfast proponent of maintaining high quality, affordable public higher education for UW students, serving on the Business and Finance Committee for 7 years, including 4 years as its chair, and serving on the Audit Committee for 7 years, including 4 years as its vice chair. And whereas Jan chaired the Regents Academic Staff Excellence Awards Committee for 6 years and served as a member for an additional year, playing a lead role in celebrating the remarkable contributions of academic staff throughout the UW system who are supporting student success. And whereas Jan chaired the Regents Teaching Excellence Awards Committee for 2 years and was inspired by the gifted teachers receiving the award and the creative energy and passion for their craft that they share with their students, colleagues, campus community, and beyond. And whereas Jan served as an effective steward of state and university resources, as a member of the Capital Planning and Budget Committee, and as a Regent member of the Hospital Authority Board. And whereas Jan helped select chancellors for UW Green Bay, UW Whitewater twice, and the former UW colleges and UW Extension. And whereas Jan served the state of Wisconsin for almost 35 years, including directing the work of the Nonpartisan Legislative Audit Bureau as Wisconsin State Auditor and serving as a fiscal analyst at the Legislative Fiscal Bureau. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System commends Janice Mueller for her distinguished service on behalf of higher education in Wisconsin and her many life achievements.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael, so much for those thoughtful remarks. Those comments mean a great deal to me, especially coming from you. I so enjoyed working with you. Thank you. There are many I wish to thank today. First of all, to the administrative staff of System and the campuses. I thank you. I miss working with you. I worked closely with you. In fact, I helped hire several of you. One of those hires many years ago was a bright-eyed recent graduate of the University of Wisconsin, Jess Lathrop. Yes, you're welcome. Thank you too to my Regent friends and colleagues. I miss our friendship and our camaraderie and our discussions. It was truly an honor to serve with you. Thank you to the chancellors and the provosts representing the entire university community. I remember when I was a new regent, I asked the great Mike Falbo, what advice do you have for me? And he said, listen to the chancellors. They know what is best for their individual campuses. And I did listen. And you were never shy or vague or confused about your asks. Increased flexibility you asked for, streamlined processes, particularly for building projects, and funding for critical needs. And I know that with this new world of COVID, your needs are even greater. While I was listening and working, you had many successes on your campuses, programmatically and with your innovative work with finance. But I do have some regrets. And we didn't move the needle on some of the items that you requested. And I think I know why. I have been cautioned more than once in my career of the danger of knowing the cost of everything and the value of nothing. And I think that despite our best efforts, we do not always explain fully the value that can be found here. We're a divided state and country, you know that. A Chronicle of Higher Education article just this week said that a college degree is dividing America. The politics of resentment in our state are very real. We resent each other at times. Even our slightest misstep is exaggerated. And frankly, there have been gotcha responses to some of the financial problems we've encountered. And those responses are long-lasting. Please don't misunderstand me. We must be accountable to our stakeholders. That's what I worked on for 7 years. And I am very proud of the financial accountability framework put in place during my tenure on the board with the help of many, including Regent Grebe and Regent Whitburn. But if the UW system is to continue to be a premier system of higher education, we must better convince our stakeholders of its value. A chancellor once told me, a chancellor listening today, when I started, she said, this is where the magic happens. And I know that is true. I felt that magic with every hand I shook at campus graduations and every time I toured a laboratory or a new building. And if I said those magic words of, please tell me about your research project, every student smiled that same smile at me. I'm very grateful for that. In closing, let me thank Torrey for his excellent service to the board, to the state, and to his country. And to my husband, Joel, and our children, and my circle of friends and family for their support in all things. However, whenever nice things are said about me, I cannot help but think first of my parents and what they would say if they could see me today. My mother graduated from high school in 1939. She had a Latin teacher in that small Northwoods high school. My mom defeated me in every word game we ever played. My dad was a World War II veteran, a volunteer firefighter for 60 years, and an electrician at the last of the open pit mines in the Western Upper Peninsula. He worked 3 rotating shifts his entire life. You know, I never heard him once complain about that. A traveling salesman came around, and my parents bought the Encyclopedia Britannica on an installment plan, I'm sure. My dad built a bookcase for that encyclopedia in our small living room. When my sister Marcia and I closed up the house, I looked at that bookcase. It remains a powerful symbol to me of the importance of education. A strong education can transform a life. It transformed mine. On their 50th wedding anniversary, I wrote a poem honoring my mom and dad. I have rewritten the last verse to say farewell to you today. It's time now to end my tribute to you. You didn't know what I had planned, but it's my gift of respect, great admiration too, from your old friend, your colleague, from Jan. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, and certainly congratulations, Jan. Thank you for your words. We will have some hardware that we will deliver to you, hopefully in person in the not too distant future. We greatly miss having you here today, but we certainly understand. And again, congratulations on incredible service for this university and for our state. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you.
Before we conclude the open session portion of our meeting today, do any regents have any communications, petitions, or memorials to share? Seeing none at this time, I'll ask all board members to stay on the line while we complete the roll call vote to move into closed session. Following the vote, please remain in the meeting while Jess clears the line. Vice President Grebe, would you read the motion to move into closed session?
I move that the Board of Regents move into closed session to consider a UW-Madison honorary degree nomination as permitted by Section 1985 1F of the Wisconsin statutes.
Regents, we have a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Regent Woodmansee. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Regent President Peterson?
Yes.
Regent Vice President Green?
Yes.
Atwell?
Yes.
Regent Bechtel?
Yes.
Regent Bogus?
Yes.
Regent Cologne? Regent Delgado?
Yes.
Regent Hall? Regent Jones?
Yes.
Regent Klein? Regent Lovezo?
Yes.
Regent Manydeeds?
Yes.
Regent Peterson?
Yes.
Regent Saffold?
Yes.
Regent Stanford Taylor?
Yes.
Regent
Yes.
Walsh? Regent Weatherly?
Yes.
Regent Woodmansee?
Yes.
We are now in closed session.
Okay. I think we'll just get the door